like to call to order the Tuesday, May 10th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting. It's a budget hearing. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Christie.
Here.
Supervisor Grijalva.
Here.
Supervisor Hines. Supervisor Hines. Supervisor Scott.
Here.
Chair Bronson.
Here.
Let the record show Supervisor Hines is out. All other board members are present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be offered by Supervisor Scott with the land acknowledgement statement to follow, read by Supervisor Grijalva.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
Justice for all.
On behalf of Pima County residents, we honor the tribal nations who have served as caretakers of this land from time immemorial and respectfully acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the multimillennial presence of the Pasquayaqui tribe within Pima County. Consistent with Pima County's commitment to diversity and inclusion, we strive toward building equal partner relationships with Arizona's tribal nations.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva. All right. And we are now at the budget hearing, beginning the budget hearing. County Administrator Lesher will introduce the budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The budget before you this year is a $1,937,895,362 budget, which represents an 8.4% decrease over last year's budget. It is the primary tax rate remains the same in this proposed budget at the current rates we are going into this year, recognizing that that is a 4.5% increase due to increased net valuation. It is those dollars, as we can talk about during the overall course of the budget, that allow us to fund the board's policy on PAYGO, which is the way that for the last 4 years we have been funding both road maintenance and our transportation maintenance and repair, as well as and construction, as well as all of our critical infrastructure needs by taking a portion of the increased valuation and a portion of the decreased debt that we are experiencing and allocating those to a pay-as-you-go program rather than relying on bonds as we had previously. We will be hearing over the next few days from the various departments. Again, we are looking at an overall FTE increase of 252 going into next year. The changes, really, as we look at the big changes over this year, it is our first in a couple of years budget as we come out of the pandemic. We still have a variety of funding allocations to the remainder of CARES and ARPA and dollars that you'll see continue in this budget. Some of the part of the big decrease in the last year, we had some $650 million in two buckets. One was some $350 million allocated to budget capacity, spending capacity we needed for grants related to CARES. This year that's gone down to $250 million. And we also had a $300 million liability last year for the unfunded liability for PSPRS, or our public service retirement, as well as our correctional officer retirement program. And we've seen those now absorbed into the budget as we're paying off that debt. So that's the Reader's Digest version of the budget that you'll be hearing lots more about in the next 2 days.
Budget. And so anything to add there? I think you pretty much just covered it.
I believe I did. Thank you, Ms. Chair.
All right, so then we'll move on to department budget presentations. Before we begin, let me put this in perspective. I'm going to quote from a farmer supervisor, Dan Ekstrom. Keep it brief, be sincere, and be seated. We're in, as you know, we're in the middle of a hyperinflation situation. As Administrator Lesher mentioned, we have seen in pretty startling rise in home value and in valuations, and we're probably at an all-time high for the price of gasoline. I don't know if you've been at the pump recently, but it's approaching $5 a gallon. And as we look at adopting this budget, this is my point of view. I don't certainly speak for other board members, but I think it's going to be very difficult to deal with supplementals this year. We're trying to keeping the budget flat at the current tax rate. We're still increasing what people who own homes are going to have to pay, and many of them are at the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. So keep that in mind, and we're looking forward to your presentations.
Chair Bronson, can I take a moment of personal privilege?
Sure.
I just wanted to wish all of the Mexican mamas Feliz Dia de las Madres. And to all of the mamas on Sunday, Happy Mother's Day. I hope you had a great day.
Very good. Did you do something fun?
I was at the Tucson Pops watching my baby play. Yeah, it was great.
Very good. All right, so let's start with the department budget presentations. Constables, who's presenting?
Good morning, Honorable Chair, members of the board, County Administrator. Thank you for the time to go over the current proposed budget. The Constable's Office is...
Oh, would you just, I'm sorry to interrupt. As you each come up, please identify yourselves and your title.
My apologies.
No problem.
Michael Stevenson, I'm the Presiding Constable for the Constable's Office. Thank you for your time to go over the current proposed budget. The Constable's Office is charged by statute to enforce the orders of the court. These orders consist of writs of restitution, evictions, wage garnishments, criminal civil summons, orders of protection, asset seizures, and many others. In addition, we are working with and assisting other departments and agencies such as Finance and Risk Management, the Department of Health and Safety, and the State of Arizona. We currently have 10 constables and 4 office personnel. We've been averaging approximately 700 court orders a month, and this does not take into account the service often requires multiple attempts and often at different locations and different times of the day. As we exit the pandemic, we have seen a rise in the number of orders issued and anticipate this to continue, increasing into the immediate future. As you know, the last couple of years have been challenging for all of us. The constables have had many unique challenges and have overcome those challenges with a new vision and direction. We are currently working closely with Mark Napier and the County Administrator's Office in developing and expanding a more formal set of policy and procedures that works for all of us. This will lay the foundation for our department while still allowing adequate discretion and operational decisions in the field. Each encounter with the public is a unique and different experience. This SOP currently at the Pima County Communications Office, going through review and initial print before being sent to the County Attorney's Office, administration, and the constables for initial review. We would also like to thank all of the supporting departments for their assistance, especially as we navigated through the COVID pandemic. The 21-22 budget for that year, we should meet revenues. The reduced year-to-date amount is largely due to the late lifting of the moratorium of the evictions and the delay in the startup of wastewater and small claims collection services. Now that these are back to pre-COVID numbers, we should be able to maintain the revenue numbers. In the 22-23 budget, that, as submitted, we should meet our department's needs for expenditures now that we're operating close to the pre-COVID level of operation. We have worked closely with our budget analyst to help determine these numbers. The budget analysts that we've worked with have been a great asset to our department in researching and determining where we may come in for next year. We continue to see an upward trend in the amount of waived papers across the board. This is mainly across 3 waiver options. court wavered, domestic violence and harassment orders, and criminal. This increase in waivers shows us that the county is continuing to assist with the cost of these papers served. Many of these waivers are due to statutory requirements, but there has been an increase in waived papers issued by the court as the pandemic has created significant hardship with many of our users' means of income. In general, waived papers from the court, it's about $10,874. In orders of protection and injunctions of harassment, about $47,416. And in waived criminal papers, $29,238, for a total waiver in cost of over $87,000. In regards to grants, we continue to explore funding with the Constable's Ethics Standards and Training Board, awarding funds to offset costs for capital expenditures. Currently, this past year, we were approved for over $14,000 in funds from the Constable's Ethics Standards and Training Board, and to date, we've received over $5,000 and awaiting the additional items to be delivered so that we can receive the remaining funding. The delay in those deliveries is largely due to supply chain issues, as I think a lot of us are aware of. The constables would also like to thank the county administrator for accepting the request for staffing for our vacant position and allowing us to add the position as our workload is returning to the pre-pandemic levels. This additional person was necessary to support the requirements identified in an audit with the new financial systems and case tracking system to ensure the proper compliance with finance and risk management's findings. One of the items that we're most excited about in the Constable's office is the close partnership that we have with the courts, CWD, and EELS, the Emergency Eviction Legal Services. We have opened office space to an EELS court navigator. In doing this, it allows for each of the constables to have direct access to EELS. With this partnership, we're able to get immediate determinations on the status of court cases, assistance services that have been requested, and this partnership between the constable, CWD, and EELS has proven to be beneficial in identifying and assisting those that are most vulnerable and those that are in need of assistance. This allows us to essentially circle the wagons of social services and support around citizens in need in order to help prevent homelessness in families and individuals within Pima County. This has resulted in uncountable success stories. We would like to thank the board for your support of the constables and CWD in this program, and it continues to be a necessary and successful partnership. We hope that we're able to maintain this working relationship and continue to use the resources available to us in order to minimize the homeless struggles the community faces. In regards to large projects, one that's been worked on for a couple of years now is our case management system. That has finally completed, and our transition to the case tracking system and financial management system is done. We are currently working with finance and risk management to ensure the processes and user credential access continues to be maintained in compliance with the county's expectations. I want to express a special thank you for all the efforts of the county IT department and the sheriff's department in helping make this complex process a success. Thank you for your support in getting this done. Thank you, members of the board, for your time to address this information.
Thank you for that information. Thank you very much. All right, our next presenter is, I'm looking at this is not the afternoon, this is the morning still. Our next presenter then will be, is it the clerk of the Superior Court.
Good morning, Chairman Bronson and the rest of the board, and to those who can't be here, Administrator Lasher, good to see you. This is my, let me give my name. My name is Gary Harrison. I am the clerk of the Superior Court. I have been with the clerk's office for a period of 37 years and feel that I am qualified to speak on the needs of the clerk's office. The clerk's office is a very important piece of the whole judicial community here in Pima County. We serve not only the attorneys and judges, we serve mainly the public also. I think that is a forgotten part of our duty because everyone doesn't get to see it. But the public is one of our main concerns every day. When I left the office over there this morning, there was about 30 people in the hallway. The clerk's office is currently comprised of 9 divisions with a total personnel of 194 people. That's down from 231 people when I first started. So we are working, I'd like to say more efficiently, but I think that we're working a lot harder right now because of the lack of personnel. Now, with that being said, I think that we cover everything very well. It's just that it doesn't leave us very much room for sick, vacation, things of that nature. The FY23 requested general fund budget is $12.3 million, which 94% is attributed to personnel cost and 6% is operations cost. That leaves us about $720,000 to cover every other statutory driven process that we have in place. That covers things like copiers, computers, which we tend to find the money for ourselves in order to make that work. The current fiscal year, we did receive adjustments in salary. The county administrator saw that it was needed. We are not where we need to be right now, but I know that that is being worked on by the county administrator, and a study is being sought after to get us to where we need to be. It's really important that we are currently, or that we are trying to get to where the rest of the community is salary-wise. We saw an uptick in our ability to be able to hire right after the county administrator did give us an increase, so that we know that it is needed in order for us to be able to compete with the rest of the community. And we're appreciative of those things that they have done for us. At this current time, the minimum starting salary is $18.50, and that's for the rest of the community. Let me make sure of that. Yep, it's $18.50, and right after the raise that we did receive, Maricopa raised their minimum starting salary for courtroom clerks to $21.50. Justice Court's minimum salary level is at $16.32 compared to our minimum level of $15.75. So with that being said, we have a different job than what they do. And what we do is not more important, but it's more important in the building that we serve. For what they do, it's important, but it's not a comparison to what we do. So I know that in order for us to compete in the future, we have got to be able to at least match what everyone is making around us. I know that money has always been an issue when it comes to being able to provide for the various departments, and everyone has a need for more money, and we're not any different. I think that over the years, and I can speak to this, we have done a lot more with less. I don't know how we're going to be able to maintain in the future. Right now, people tend to move forward and do what they have to do. So I think that that's something that if there is a way to make it happen, we have got to find a way to make that happen. Operations that have been affected by the pandemic. And let me say this, during the pandemic, to give you an idea of what the clerk's office is like, during the pandemic, everyone went home during the pandemic. Everyone did. In the clerk's office, we're the only ones who stayed for the entire time, and we've been there the entire time. I know that in our office, we are probably the most crowded department in the county. I know that we are. Our building is old. Everybody is looking at it. Everybody knows that that's an issue. But when you have something like the pandemic that happens, then it becomes more of an issue. During the pandemic, they said that we were supposed to be 6 feet apart. In the clerk's office, because of space, that was impossible for us to be 6 feet apart. The people did a really tremendous job in staying safe and staying healthy because we had very little COVID during that time. We had our share. But you would think in a building that small and based on the separations that we supposed to have, we did a really, really good job in staying safe and staying healthy. But I can tell you that had nothing to do with being 6 feet apart. We have areas where courtroom clerks sit where they're no more than 3 feet apart. I've watched them sit on cubicles that are being held together by tape. And I know that we can do a better job than what we've done. Now, that's not the county administrator's fault, not totally. I think that in the past we have lived in such a way culturally in our department that we have neglected things that should have been taken care of on a timely basis, and we've not done that. So if there is a way, and I know there's always a way if there's a will, and we have a will to make a change here, then we have to make that change if we're going to compete with or be able to provide a service, but not just the court, but the legal community and the public as well. We've not done a good job at that. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't admit that my primary focus right now is to make life better for the employees in the clerk's office. They've done it without complaining. I know, because I was one of them. And we've always worked and made sure that we've done our best. I get it all the time. I get it from attorneys that say, man, I wish that the people up in Maricopa was as helpful, as pleasant as the people are here in Pima County. Well, that's Pima County. We're not Maricopa. We tend to be a more pleasant people down here in Pima County. Now, they will say that I'm biased, but I think everybody in here would agree with me that we're more pleasant. And I'm not knocking those people, but we're more pleasant. That's why I live here. I could have lived up and I could have lived there, but that's why I live here. So I think that as supervisors, as administrators, as elected officials, we have to do a better job. And I think that we can. I think that we can. Now, initially, I was supposed to get up here and spout off a bunch of numbers. But well, I just kind of knew that I could give you numbers, but the numbers didn't mean anything unless you could see what those numbers, where those numbers came from. And our numbers are pretty good. But based on where we're headed in the future, we now are getting ready to e-file every case type. And And so that means that we have to retrain every employee in there, not on the content, but on the process of what we do. And they're going to become more like analysts than people who move paper from here to there. So with that being said, my whole goal for the time that I have left, and I'm old, so I don't have a whole lot of time left. I've been here for 37 years. I've got to find a way to better our conditions. Now, we're not in the heat, and we're not digging holes. I understand that. But if we're going to compete with recruiting people, then we got to do a better job at doing that. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to give, in terms of the state of our office. The state of our office is in a complete transformation. And when I say complete, we don't even know where we're headed yet. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure out how we're going to manage this new technology. And we're behind when it comes to this technology. This technology has been in place for 10 years. And we're just now getting to a place where we're saying we have to do this. The pandemic caused it. The pandemic caused us to move forward. So when I say that everything is going to be e-filed by the end of the year, we won't be taking in any more paper by the end of the year. It'll all be e-filed. Well, all of that requires training. All of that requires more QCing of every document that comes in there. There was a time where our imaging department was imaging more than 10,000 documents a day. Well, I expect that number to go up even higher now, because what the good thing is that it's going to be filed electronically. And so that's a good thing. But at the same time, we still have to manage it, because if we don't manage it well, garbage in, garbage out. So therefore, when you go to pull a case and to look at a case, it is not, you're gonna walk away with a feeling that this isn't complete. Well, that's not where we want to be. So to sum it all up, the goal is to try and get us in a place where we serve even better. I think that we've done a really, really good job at serving everyone in Pima County and outside of Pima County as well. So the goal is to get us in a better place. I'm working with Administrator Lesher. She has been really open to me and the ideas that we are trying to put forward, and in hopes that we might be able to accomplish some of the things that I know that we're going to need. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Mr. Harrison, could I ask a couple of questions? Sure. Thank you. I noticed that the recommended budget for revenue is down almost $1 million. And I think part of that is attributable to the grants fund being zeroed out. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, well, I could, but I think that I'm going to have Kaz Hernandez speak to it a little more in terms of giving us the numbers that we want to hear. Sure. Kaz Hernandez is the finance director for the clerk's office.
Good morning. Supervisor Scott. That $1 million, there was, we have a grant, currently an IGA with 4D with the DES. And that particular grant, it was being recorded in a different way for a while. So we still have the grant, and we still have that grant going. But I think those numbers were them backing out that grant, so it made it look like we were short in revenue for that, but we really aren't that short in revenue. It was just double recording.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
The other question I had, really more, I think for you, Mr. Harrison, is that you mentioned that you're down from 231 employees when you took office to 194, and there are currently 28 vacancies, but according to the documents that we got, none of those vacancies are under recruitment. Are you waiting on the results of the salary and compensation study before you start recruiting for those 28 vacancies?
No, we're not waiting for that, and we are currently recruiting. It's just that it has been really, really slow. Things have picked up. so that for instance, we would put out a recruitment notice to Indeed, and we wouldn't get more than 1 or 2 hits on Indeed. I can remember there was a time where we would put out a recruitment notice and we would get 30 people coming in for interviews, where now we just get 1 or 2. Well, in the past month or so, that has picked up, and it's looking more promising. The only thing that I can point to has been the increase that we have received from the administrator. So that's the one thing that I can look at that says, here's why we get more hits on that.
Okay. I just was confused because, as Ms. Lesher knows, the documents that we got indicated that none of the positions were under recruitment. And because of the way we go about recruiting positions, and we're waiting for that need to grow in different departments. It's not that the need isn't there. We will hold off on recruiting for those positions. Certainly, we don't recruit for them all at once. But what we do is wait until that need gets to be at a certain point in wherever area it is, and then we'll start recruiting at that point. But for all intents and purposes, all of those positions are under recruitment. Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Sheriff Nanos.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, Honorable Board. I'm, first of all, grateful to be here, given this opportunity, and I wanted to thank you for, I'll take a step back and talk about what we've accomplished this last year, because I think it needs to be in front of you to know the great things you've done for my team and the things we do in the community. One, today we are now fully accomplished with body-worn cameras in all of the districts out in the field. And that has just gone very smooth. It's not as quick as I liked, but they've done a great job, and everybody I hear from really is just grateful for the body cameras. In that regard, we are now starting at our corrections facility, and that staff is already in the process of receiving their cameras. We're anticipating, I'm hopeful we'll have it by the end of the month, but certainly we should have it by the end of June. So that is just one of the many things and the first things I came into office asking for, and you not only delivered, but you stood up and gave bigger than I ever imagined, so thank you for that. There's other things too, though, that we asked for when I came in, and that dealt with staffing levels and how we assign our staff, and looked at the shortages we were facing and best way to utilize the resources we have, that resources being staff. We because of you and your efforts, we were able to build substations and even relocate substations and redraw district lines and shift bodies to other areas of the community where we needed a full, complete 24/7 substation. Tucson Mountain comes to mind, where they were working from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. and then would go home, and after any problems that occurred at 2:01 a.m., those resources came from the other side of the mountain, and that's just not acceptable. But we still sit here with great needs. I don't envy your position. The needs are many, and they are great, and it's not just my agency, it is countywide. You know, when I submitted our submittal, I submitted a letter to you requesting 67 deputies, additional deputies, and 27 support staff. I also asked for a 5% across the board raise for my staff. That was probably, 4 months ago? And we have seen, as you point out, Madam Chair, inflation has just gotten way out of hand. And we know that if they settled inflation today, if everything was good today, those prices of our staples, our foods, our rents, our gas, They don't just drop. They're prices that we have to live with. So my first priority to you would be to tell you that as we sit here today with 8.5% CPI inflation rates, my first priority to you is to take care of the staff. That I certainly appreciate County Administrator Jan Lesher's recognition of the need for raises. However, I have some concerns that by putting out raises at 5%, 3%, 1% increments, you've done something that's kind of regressive from what you did in this fall. This fall, you took care of staff and readjusted some people and dealt with compression issues. But to do a staggered, if you will, pay increase based on income levels, are we not back to compressing again? And to put out a pay raise for those who didn't get any adjustments last year and say they can't, if you got adjusted last year, you're not going to get a pay raise, is exclusive. And to me, it's not fair. Because one thing we know that is not exclusive, includes all of us, impacts us all, is exactly that, the inflation rate we're seeing. So if there is some way I can work with you, the county administrator, to find a better way to pay our staff, to get them the raises they need at that 8.5% level, then I will do that. The request for staffing is great, and I understand that. And it's a need that I think every one of you, including Dr. Hines, we have talked on the phone, we have emailed. We know that our communities out there, Madam Chair, we've received letters just this week that we need more deputies in our rural areas and in our general populous areas. We don't do the community policing programs that we used to do. Directed patrol is basically non-existent, and that was there to deal with quality of life issues. The speeding and the racing and all the overtaking of intersections. We're very reactive to that, not proactive, because I've got some 20 motorcycles sitting there empty because I only have 3 motor cops. These are issues that face everyone in the county. Diamond Bell, 3 Points, Tucson Mountain, Cat City, Rincon, Vale, everywhere we have a great need. So if I can reduce those numbers to help you, help us get the staffing paid appropriately, get those levels right, and as well as take care of those community policing needs, I will do that. I'm willing to work with you and Ms. Lesher in any way we can, and I'll keep this short. I'm being sincere, and if there's no questions, I'll gladly be seated.
Thank you for being sincere. No,
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Sheriff Nanos, just to be clear, the raise that you're requesting for staffing, who would be the recipients of the raise? Is it across the board? Is it all corrections officers? Is it
across the board?
Everyone.
And if I may, Madam Chair, excuse me, because I know I speak out of turn here, I would request that raise be across the board, countywide. Every county employee is suffering from this inflation, and we know it's not going away anytime soon. It's just not. If you gave 8.5% today, it's a struggle. We've struggled through 2 years of a pandemic, and I don't know that we're going to not struggle for the next 2 years. But we've got to make an impact, and I know you guys have challenges. Where do we find this money? I know that we have reserve funds that, again, we're adding to. Some of it's by statute, but some of it is by our own course. And I'd ask you to consider looking at maybe just this once. I've been here 40-some years. Maybe just this once. we invest in our human capital.
Madam Chair, Sheriff, when it
Yes.
comes to your department, the Sheriff's Department,
Yes, sir.
who would the recipients of the raise be?
I would recommend everyone.
Every
in the department.
employee in your department?
Well, not me, but yes, sir, every employee.
Yeah, we can't raise yours, it's set by statute.
I know that. Thank you, though.
Just,
Madam Chair,
you're done? Okay. Supervisor.
thank you. Sheriff Nanos, I very much appreciated the opportunity to meet with you and a member of your staff about your supplemental budget request. And I have some questions about that request that I want to pose not just to you, but also to Ms. Lesher.
Please.
Because as I'm looking at the recommended budget, and obviously most of your supplemental budget requests, except for the raise that Supervisor Christie just asked about, had to do with personnel. But as I'm looking at the recommended budget and the documents that we got, there are currently 199 vacant positions in the Sheriff's Department. And again, the data that we have indicates that only 53 of them are under recruitment. If I'm looking at the breakdown of FTE full-time equivalents by program, under administration, and this is just the regular budget, the recommended budget, you're asking for additional 8 FTE, 3.25 additional FTE under corrections, a reduction of 17 FTE under investigations, and then an increase of a little less than 15 FTE under operations. But the supplemental, as you indicated, and as the documents that you shared with us when you came and met with my staff, the supplemental is requesting an additional 94 FTE, 67 of them commissioned, 27 of them civilians. So could you speak to all of those FTE requests and the existing vacancies together?
Yeah,
and then when you're done, I wanted Ms. Lesher to address why there is a supplemental request out of your department and why some of the FTE that you're requesting weren't part of the recommended budget.
So first of all, as to your FTEs and decrease in one area and increase in other areas, I don't know that those decisions have been made, and I'm not sure where you're getting your numbers from.
They're in the recommended budget book.
Okay, so I'm not sure. I'd have to sit with Ms. Lesher, and she would have to explain that. Here's what I know of my department, and I'll address the recruitment as well. First of all, we are 114 corrections officers down of the 209. We're 27 deputies down of the 209. I don't know, we came here, when I left in 2016, we had 1,636 paid positions. Today, we're at 1,288. We have seen quite a reduction. When crime is up, violent crime is up, gun violence is up, fatalities are up, DUI fatalities are up, and your staffing levels drop. You don't have to look too far. Tucson Police Department experienced homicide rates that we've never seen in the history of this area. And yet their staffing levels dropped from 1,100 to 700 in a matter of 3-4 years. There's a reason we call defunding the police has to be done with when we make cuts in our public safety, those cuts have to be done surgically, not with an axe, because you'll see exactly what you're seeing happening today. Recruitment. So when I came on board, we had an entire recruiting team. Sergeant Kelly from Corrections showed me a book about this thick of all the recruiting efforts, some great efforts. A lot of work went into it. Buses, billboards, TV, radio, even went to San Diego and stood on the piers with business cards to hand out, say, hey, we're looking for people. And when I sat there with him and I said, so all these efforts, what was the best? Which one worked the best for us? And in seconds, in a split second, he said, oh, that's easy. Word of mouth. You see, this isn't anything new to me. We've always known that it's our best recruitment is from our employees. They know their neighbors and their kids and their others that they know the character and quality of people they want in this organization. So they tap out and reach out to them. But to recruit those people when you're being paid less than your counterparts makes it tough. To go to you as my neighbor and say, boy, your son would make a great officer. I'd love to see him in our department. And you tell me that your son has other ambitions because there's greater opportunity elsewhere. We hurt ourselves. And when my staff the morale is low, and they sit back and speak poorly of the working conditions and the environments they're in and the pay, how does that affect our best recruiting efforts?
No, and I never want to be either diminishing or unaware of the challenges that everybody in your department faces, whether commissioned or civilian. But as a supervisor who's charged with approving the budget, I can only go with the numbers that are presented to me.
I understand that.
And the recommended budget is recommending an increase of right around $7.3 million. That is $11.3 million higher than the forecast for the budget. Again, and Mr. Harrison addressed this with his numbers as well. The numbers that we have are that out of the 199 vacancies currently in the Sheriff's Department, only right around 25% of them are being recruited for.
That is far from the truth.
Okay, well,
I don't know what
deal with the numbers that we have in front of us.
I guess I'd ask, what do you constitute recruiting?
Well, let me pose that question to Ms. Lesher. When we get a document that says 199 vacancies, 53 of them are under recruitment, how are those figures put together? Because both the sheriff and Mr. Harrison have had concerns about those numbers.
Chair Bronson, Supervisor Scott, we take these numbers out of the budget, and it's the same information that we send to the board once a week. That's pulled off our NeoGov system. It is part of our program with HR that shows us every position that is being actively recruited through our HR system, and how many are currently vacant, how many are filled, and how many are currently being advertised for through the NeoGov system.
So I'm guessing that you're looking at a document provided by HR downtown, not the department's documentations. We attend a job fair after job fair. If you watched TV at all this week, you saw that we were advertising in job fairs. We advertise on radio. Everywhere I go, I speak to, we're hiring, come join us. Our SROs are in our schools, our officers in the street. I mean, there's a bigger effort than just some document that HR has says we're recruiting online. We too recruit online. Our web pages also recruit. So I think that we're probably talking semantics here. It's not like we've got 199 positions, but we're only recruiting for these other 53 because we don't want the other 140. I want all of those positions. If I had them all, my ask would be a lot greater, a lot less.
Let me ask a follow-up question, and both you, Sheriff, and to Ms. Lesher. Do you have the ability as the sheriff, with those 199 vacancies, do you have the ability to move FTE from one area to another to hire for areas that you see as greater need? And Ms. Lesher, does any department head have that capacity?
I guess it depends on what you're saying, area to area.
I think he was addressing that to Ms. Lesher.
Oh,
well,
please.
To both, really.
Please. Let me explain. Whenever we see a need, for example, I have a PCN in my redaction unit for body-worn cameras, but I need a PCN in my jail for a intake support specialists. We value where is that need? Where's the best place for this person to be? And also, where's the fit? We always confer with Ms. Lesher, who has been a breath of fresh air to work with. We never just do that on our own. That conversation occurs between my staff, and primarily me, and Ms. Lesher.
So, Ms. Lesher, with regard to vacancies, which are obviously approved positions, do both row officers and appointed department heads have the capacity to move PCNs around as needed?
Chair Bronson, Supervisor Scott, there's a clearly delineated process by which department heads and elected officials can request for a reallocation or a movement of those positions, and those can be approved and reallocated with approval of the deputies and the department directors.
And while you have the floor, Ms. Lesher, could I ask, and I went through the numbers in both the recommended budget that was given to the board and also the supplemental request that the sheriff came by and talked with me about. Why were the FTE needs that are in his supplemental requests not part of the recommended budget?
Chair Bronson, Supervisor Scott, we have many requests for additional staff, and at this point what we looked at was what that vacancy rate was. And in looking at the countywide needs, said we cannot accommodate the additional PCNs at this point in the recommended budget with, at this week, 201 vacancies within the department, believing that given the time to recruit up and to fill those positions, we would not be able to also accommodate the additional new positions, and that's why it was not recommended.
Okay, thank you.
So to that, if I might add, the reason we as I said, 114 of those positions are corrections officers. I need more corrections officers. We want more corrections officers. But that doesn't address the deputies in the street. Corrections officers can't just go and be a deputy in the street. A public safety support specialist can't be a deputy in the street. Deputies in the street, those are the 94, well, actually it's broken down, 67 deputies and 27 civilian staff. I didn't get into the weeds as to where those positions are, what they are, but with staff, we do have those where we want those. We want to build some community police teams that can actually be responsive to those areas in the rural communities and in our metropolitan areas where the need is greatest. We want to be able to we're not asking for more. We're asking for a return to where we were 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when we had the staffing levels that we had, where we were able to provide school resource officers, mental health unit teams, directed patrol units, rural squads. We don't have that capacity anymore. So what I'm asking for is 67 more deputies. Understand this. And I could ask for, I want all 199 those positions filled, but that still wouldn't get me to where we were back in 2016 when I left here. And so I know that there's no way you could possibly, even if you could, if you could grant me, oh, here's 300 more officers for you or 300 more positions, Sheriff, there's no way I could possibly train them, hire them, recruit them, and get them in board in a year's time. I'm going to struggle with the 67. What I'm really looking at is this. We had a attrition program, software program that tracked attrition. We lose 1 deputy a week. We lose 2 COs a week. It is what it is. The numbers are there, and they're constant, and it's a program that you can have access to, and it shows you projected out. So just to maintain our current position, I need 52 deputies this year. 52. That's just to stay even. And we struggle with that, because it is tough. It's every market. A Circle K, county clerk's office. Everybody struggles today in today's world with trying to recruit and get those people on board. But we think that we have some strategies in place that can also help us get those 114 COs who are desperately in need of more help. But those are things that are done internally with my organization and my management team and strategies we employ, and we look and listen to our community as you have, where they say, we need more deputies. I can't sleep at night on Sunday night at 10 o'clock because they hold the phone up. There's racing going on. The Diamond Bell Ranch desperately wants more bodies. They believe that my move of taking 10 deputies from the rural community in 3 Points and putting it in Vail was just a bad idea. But that's really not how that occurred, and that's not what occurred. I recognize that 3 Points needs more people, and we plan to shift that station closer to them to get them 60 bodies more. It makes no sense to drive an hour to your work assignment from your station. So that's going to help, but it's not enough. We still look at, the 67, right off the bat, I would tell you 36 of those bodies would go to rural and community policing efforts, more than half of them. And the others would also be to supplement enforcement programs such as our motor squad, our DUI task forces, our traffic units. I mean, I have 2 traffic investigators who see 1 million people, maybe 2 million cars on the road every day? 2 traffic investigators. We're not providing any service in community policing. We are not proactive, we are reactive. We are asking for problems. We know that community policing works. And to have those programs supported, I need your support. And that's why I make the request.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to engage in the dialogue with the sheriff and also to ask Ms. Lesher questions. What I heard Ms. Lesher say, Sheriff, is that the reason that the entire request for additional staffing was not included in the recommended budget was because they looked at the 199 vacancies and wanted to see some action taken to fill those close to 200 vacancies before additional staffing was hired and was authorized. And what I also heard her say is that you have the ability within certain policy constraints to move PCN numbers around.
Yes, but you have to be careful when you do that because, like I say, I have 114 of the 199 are corrections officers. I can't give those up. They are right now, I can't believe that they're able to do what they do with the staffing levels they have. Those young men and women, the overtime is through the roof over there. It's only a matter of time you're going to burn them out. That is a tough job just working 6 hours a day, much less 10, 12-hour days. It's a tough job when you don't have the right amount of team to support you. And to move that's what the past administration did, was we took away from one area and gave those PCNs to another area. That doesn't work. That's what got us where we're at today. PCNs are designed, those payroll control numbers are designed, those FTEs are designed because at one point in time, we needed them. We still need them. Because the people aren't coming at our doors, knocking on our doors saying, I want that job. That's a recruiting effort, not a retention effort, recruiting effort.
Could we ask, Madam Chair, for a follow-up report from both Ms. Lesher and Sheriff Nanos about how we can make use of both existing vacancies and the needs that he cites, because I think that's going to be helpful to me and perhaps to my colleagues in terms of making budgetary decisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm willing to work with you all, and Ms. Lesher has worked with us.
So we'll get those reports before we adopt the tentative budget?
I will sit down with Ms. Lesher and see what the reports are you're looking at and what you need.
Madam Chair, just one comment. I'm very happy with your move to Vail with the extra.
Well, I'm not, because it came out of the District 3.
Chair Bronson, I just wanted to follow up, and if you could include some information in the report that we're going to get about the grants that you feel that the Sheriff's Department might be able to apply for some of those other programs.
Supervisor Grijalva, thank you. We do have an application in now. We just don't know where it's going to be for, I think we've applied for 14 COP grants. We wanted to apply for 67. They limited it to 14. Grants are really, and so we are very cautious in the acceptance of those, but we do look at them, and that's one that we're hoping will come through.
Yeah, because some of the programs that you mentioned that the county was involved in before started out as grant-funded programs. So I'm just wondering, since we have some of this administration being able to put out more grants, I was just wondering how many of those, or maybe what types of programs you're trying to enhance.
We're staying with the community policing programs. We believe that I believe that those are the most effective. And if there's other grants, we'd certainly take a look at them. But as you know, the policies in place, we will not take grants that does not pay for the use of our team.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on then. And I want to note that Supervisor Hines has joined us remotely. So our next presenter, Superior Court.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Administrator Lesher, good morning to all, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity to present our budget information to you. Lucky for me, I get to present not only on behalf of Superior Court, but Juvenile Court this morning, as well as the Pima County Consolidated Justice Court. I do wish to point out that Judge Carroll is here, or was here. He's around here. He will be here. He will be handling the freestanding Justice Court in Green Valley, as well as Judge Peck is here for the freestanding Justice Court in
So that's
Ajo.
the Justice Services piece, so that will be...
That's part of Justice Court.
Oh, okay, it's part of Justice Court.
Yes, it's an easy
will be-
confusion. We have a Consolidated Justice Court as well as two freestanding
Okay,
Justice Courts.
perfect.
Great, thank you. So I'll be beginning with the Superior Court. Our regular general fund budget is $40,446,610 plus $1,938,492 for the mandated general fund, which is a $3.2 million increase over 21-22. But let me explain that a little bit. That includes a transfer of 10 information technology positions from the Consolidated Justice Court to Superior Court. So we've moved that funding to the Superior Court's responsibility. We also have a return of 4 Superior Court positions that were previously unfunded by the county, and also the funding for the 5% countywide salary increase, as well as 9 new IT customer service positions. We often refer to them now as technology bailiffs within the courtroom. And we have 8 new court security officer positions, which are an area of continuing and increasing importance to the court. Superior Court, let me describe it in a little bit more detail, has 53 judicial officers across 5 benches, those 5 benches being the civil bench, the criminal bench, the probate bench, the family bench, as well as juvenile. And in 2021, the courthouse served over 145,500 visitors, and we've had increasing traffic as the COVID conditions lift. Now, Pima County Superior Court is one of the few courthouses that never closed its doors during COVID. And that was due to the fast and dedicated focus on increasing remote services, significantly increasing availability of online appearances for the parties. We have improved equipment and computer programs that allows people to appear virtually as opposed to coming into the courthouse. We've been serving litigants in the family matters through our conciliation court, which created the state's first online required parenting course. It's required as part of any litigant who's involved in a family law case. We've also focused on efficient and better ways to provide our justice services. In November 2021, the Superior Court hosted 2 separate conferences of court professionals from across the country to showcase Pima County's unique approach to decriminalizing mental health, and we partnered with the county in doing that. The first was a hosted conference of representatives from 5 states, and the second was a conference focusing on over 20 representatives from the state of Oregon alone. Another example of the court's focus on improved justice services is its STEPS program. This is a pre-indictment diversion program that within a year, and this is in partnership with the county attorney, who's been a very valuable partner in this. Within a year, the Supreme Court awarded the program with its Judicial Branch Excellence in Innovation Award, and that was awarded this past October. We continue to focus on improving services for self-represented litigants in whatever language may be spoken. We have 2 of our 5 full-time library staff members who speak Spanish fluently, and customers are given the opportunity for online services or telephonic interpretive services should they need to be able to communicate in another language. Recognizing that approximately 80% of the people involved in our family court are self-represented, our library offers free legal clinics through collaboration with Southern Arizona Legal Aid, Step Up to Justice, and the Pima County Bar Foundation. These are just certain examples of how we've continued to try and be creative and efficient in our abilities to serve our community. And we are grateful for your continued support, which allows the court to serve our community at such a nationally recognized high level. And we look forward to continued successes in the coming year. And if there are no questions, I will turn to Juvenile Court.
Great. Move on.
All right, thank you. First of all, the presiding judge of Juvenile Court, Peter Hockley, apologizes for not being here. He's actually meeting with visiting judges from Vietnam at this time in a discussion of how they could reform their juvenile justice process. Also, I want to point out that Jennifer Torsha is here, who may be able to answer additional questions if there are any. She's our court administrator for Juvenile Court. Juvenile Court's general fund requested budget for fiscal year 2023 is $21,020,741, which is an increase of $523,496 over the previous year's budget. The increase is due to the 5% county-wide wage increase. No change has been requested for positions from our previous year. The Juvenile Court's program and operational highlights include embracing the changing dynamics brought on by the pandemic and its ability to maintain operations and services delivered to our community. The Pima County Indian Child Welfare Act, often referred to as ICWA, collaborative, was selected by the Supreme Court of Arizona as the 2021 Judicial Branch Strategic Agenda Award winner in the Protecting Children, Families, and Communities category, in part for the national, tribal, and court collaboration. This is the 4th time in 5 years the Pima County Juvenile Court has received a Strategic Agenda Award in this category from the Supreme Court of Arizona. That is also a unique program that is being recognized nationally as other courts are looking to it and adopting it to help better protect children involved in the Indian Child Welfare Act. Our Juvenile Probation Division and Clinical Department have partnered to develop a pilot program working with our 8 to 12-year-old population to provide a more clinically focused and supportive response when referring to juvenile court. Our clinical department is providing evidence-based, multidimensional family and eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, also referred to as EMDR, and that is to our court-involved youth, and it better supports the outcomes as they move through the court and probation process. Our Family Drug Court was not only appointed a national peer learning court, it has also exceeded the enrollment goal by 105% for each of the first 3 years and continues to be a model court across the nation. Probation in conjunction with the county attorney and public defender's office, has moved forward with our mental health diversion program, focusing on youth who have exhausted other diversion options and experienced difficulties with mental, behavioral, and emotional regulations. Our juvenile court programs were recognized and featured at conferences including ICWA Collaborative, presented at the 2022 National Association of Court Managers, our dependency unit presented at the 2021 National Continuous Quality Improvement Summit hosted by the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges on using data to improve the handling of dependency hearings, and our court has also presented at the American Bar Association Conference in April, highlighting the collaborative work done by the Transnational Task Force and our Transnational Toolkit. The Transnational Toolkit has been published as a resource for the state on both the AOC and Department of Child Safety's websites. These are just a few examples of the high performance of our juvenile court with your support, and we also look forward for additional successes in our future.
We've got a tremendous juvenile court.
We do.
I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Thank you. Judge Bergen, thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much for being here today and,
My pleasure.
and taking on the challenge of talking about 3 different budgets. And you're going to notice, Ms. Lesher, a trend here with my questioning, because it came up with the Clerk of Superior Court and with the Sheriff, and I want to raise it with Judge Bergen with regard to Juvenile Court. Juvenile Court has 58 vacancies, but according to the data that we got, only 4 of them are under recruitment. Now, Juvenile Court is not asking for any additional FTE, and there's no additional FTE in the recommended budget, but according to the data that we have, 54 of the 58 vacancies are not being recruited for. Superior Court is in the recommended budget being recommended for an additional almost 36 FTE. But again, according to the data that we have, out of the 58 vacancies in Superior Court, only 17 are under recruitment. I'm going to have a similar comment with regard to Justice Court. And it was something that I noticed as I was going through the budget book, is in not every department, but virtually every department, the data that we're getting is indicating that a significant number of vacancies are not under recruitment. So if you could address that, Judge Bergen, with regard to Superior Court, and ma'am, if you could address that with regard to Juvenile Court, that would be helpful to me.
And if I may, this
Please.
is Jennifer Torsha with our Juvenile
Hi,
Court,
Jennifer.
and she will have much better information than I had. And I will also ask Ron Overholt from Superior Court, who's our court administrator, to come forward, who would have more specific information to answer on behalf of Superior Court.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the question.
You bet.
All right.
Good morning, Supervisor Bronson and Board. For the vacancies with Juvenile Court, basically, first of all, we have an interface with NeoGov, and our interface does have some discrepancies. But with Juvenile Court, we currently open 1 requisition for all of our vacant positions within the same job title. So, for example, JDO, we have 1 open requisition to fill all of those vacancies. So that's, and we do the same with probation. We've already started process changing so that we do 1 requisition for every exact vacancy moving forward, but currently that's why you see that discrepancy in our numbers.
And you can see why that discrepancy is confusing and concerning.
Yes.
Because the perception is that 54 of the 58 vacancies are not being recruited for. I mean, that's what's in black and white for the board.
We do see that, and that's why we're going to make that change moving forward.
Thank you. And Ms. Lesher, at least for the first presenters that we've had so far, that's something that every presenter has rebutted. The numbers that were given to the board in terms of under recruitment, and I'm betting that the Superior Court Administrator is going to do the same thing.
Ron Overholt, Superior Court Administrator. Good morning. It's the same issue with Superior Court. Many of our vacancies are in a single classification, like probation officer, where we're doing continuous recruitment for those positions, but we list it as one opening because it's a single classification. Our biggest recruitment at Juvenile Court is juvenile detention officers. We have 30 vacancies, and we're constantly trying to fill those, but it's listed as one classification that we're recruiting for.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That clears it up. Judge, did you want to wrap it up?
All right, yes.
Oh, you still have justice courts.
Would that be the same answer for Justice Court? All right, thank you. And for those that may not have heard that, I'd ask Ron Overholt if that would be the same answer for a similar question for Justice Court, and he said that it would be. Thank you. So let me turn to Justice Court. And this is the Pima County Consolidated Justice Court. The general fund budget is $7,647,848, which is a net increase of only $155,594 over 21-22. The Consolidated Court administration currently falls under Superior Court's presiding judge's authority, as well as the Superior Court's court administration. As noted earlier, several IT positions were transferred from the Consolidated Court to Superior Court to increase operational efficiencies, and that accounts for a reduction in the budget amount. The Consolidated Court continues to focus on and build upon its 5 specialty courts, which include domestic violence, mental health, homeless, the homeless court, veteran support court, as well as the animal welfare court. During the eviction crisis, the Consolidated Court created the state's first eviction settlement conference program in the state, which was and continues to be successful and is being used as a model across the state. It has also partnered with the county to install 4 court navigators who assist the public with understanding the eviction process and the resources available to it. And this has been an absolute game changer for the eviction process. Further, Precinct 5 has been eliminated effective January 1 of 2023, which effectively enlarges the size of each of the precincts. The Consolidated Court has accepted that as a current condition and is working currently towards efficiently handling and fairly and within the Constitution and the laws, the enlarged size of the cases that they are assigned, and continue to do strong work. The Pima County Consolidated Justice Court has reorganized to adjust to these new boundaries. It has continued to provide fair, efficient, and timely service to the community, and it intends to continue its improvements that have occurred over the past year. And that is the presentation for the Consolidated Court. If there are no questions, I will go get a drink of water.
Thank you for being brief, for being sincere. So now you get to be seated unless there are questions.
It's been my pleasure, and once again, thank you for your time and consideration.
We'll go to, do we want to do AHA or Green Valley? Who's going first? Green Valley, okay. Judge Carroll.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, board members. Good morning, Dr. Hines, who's appearing remotely. We're grateful to be here as Precinct 7 Justice Court. Thank you, Gary. Gary and I, you gave my speech. The only thing is I've been here since my hair was black, now it's gray. Yours all fell out. I'll be 30 years in this office in the county. I love the Pima County, as all of you know. I've been sharing with you during the re-precincting that if you're gonna help me expand our territory, please give me the resources to do so. I've been talking about, I'm Judge Carroll, by the way. And as I said, I sat up here for 20 years. I've made these tough decisions before. I know Steve's in the back. People used to complain to me, especially the call to the audience people, that I wasn't always at the dais. But it's okay. There's obviously speakers back there, and we're grateful for all of your attending. The most important thing is I have a handout, if I could have the honor of giving it to y'all. As you know, this is our budget request, and we have a big supplemental. And Sharon had mentioned, it's going to be very difficult. Hey, Steve. It's going to be very difficult to provide for supplementals this year, and that's a great concern for me, especially since I'm inheriting most of the precinct that Doug Taylor was resigned from recently this year. I met with Doug Taylor in person last week, and he certainly has some concerns about how the growth is going to go. And I don't want to spend the entire morning of yours. I do want to correct one thing. It says revenue ration instead of revenue ratio. That was my typo. And I want to say that our revenue on a rural court that we are, and I know it's rural because I bought something from Macy's that had to be delivered. They charged me $100. Okay? I know I live in a rural place. So does John Peck, but his revenue to ratio is about twice mine. I'm just trying to bring mine up to where it's half of his. I need the security supplementals that I've requested. Both of us run precincts that are out in the rural area. We see all types of people, and mine's about to expand with a bunch of people who want to be left alone. As Vail has clearly made it, they're unhappy about some of the expansion of Precinct 7 in there. So I need really to get out and see the people and tell the story. In fact, if you give me my supplementals, I'm like that guy on the commercial, what would you do for a Klondike bar? I'll walk all the way from Sassabee to Colossal Cave and spread the word. I'm very desperate, and I hope you can feel me. This property that I'm seeking to secure is a certain risk. I've had a stalker, as you know. People want to know what a stalker's like. It's like this, okay? It's like this zombie who hung around in front of my house for 2 years and then followed me to work on occasion and drive right into my parking lot. I wish I had a fenced area where I could have pulled in. I don't have one. The sheriff does in back of the courthouse, back of the substation. And so does the SAV, ironically. I don't know what hazards they may, but they certainly have a fenced-in area. It's all I asked for. I've been asking for it for 5 years that I've been there, and it's now send me off to walk from Sassabee to Colossal Cave with the security and the knowledge that expanding my territory is going to be helpful to the people that I'm inheriting. I never depend on the courts for help. I'm a latchkey judge. I certainly think that in the end, it's going to be better for the justice, better for the community, that they have someone who knows the precinct as well as I do. I want you to know that in Sahuarita, that is going to be changed a little bit. Green Valley, it's going to be changed a little bit. My court is going to be serving 3 of these precincts. And I'm hoping Steve will support my supplemental. And I'll remind you that in the day, I used to support supplementals as urgent as this. I also always supported the secondary for the library. And that was a real thing that we started in the beginning, was to support library and flood control on the secondary. But I'm very happy with the clerk that I just hired. I have 0 vacancies. I had 1 person come to be interviewed. She's going to be a perfect clerk. I'm blessed. I always say I know I'm in paradise because behind me is the giant Green Valley thrift store called the White Elephant. In front of me is Our Lady of the Valley. I'm sitting right in the middle of those 2 favorite places of mine. And I'll tell you, I pray every day. I brought my Saint Rita. That's the patron saint of lost causes today, because I already heard from Sharon how difficult it's going to be for a supplemental budget increase. My budget proposal that was from, it's from the county budget department, who I love everybody in the county, all 7,000 plus employees. It's wrong a little bit, okay? Why is it wrong? Like the sheriff, I mean, there's a discrepancy between the recommended budget and our numbers, and the budget only allocated for 121 above the fiscal year 21-22 budget to cover our department expenditures and the supplementals. We need it all desperately, and I want you to remember, when I came in and Nicole Fife and Diana and Lisa Royal told me they were going to expand my precinct by You know, it's going to be 40,000 people when Rocking K is finally built out, and it's going fast. As Steve Christie told me the other day, that's the fastest growing area in the whole state, probably, definitely Pima County is Precinct District 4. So again, I get fast data, I call people. I do want to recommend when former supervisors come in here like me, you know, my tether is thinning. This is my last district, this is my last run. I'm unopposed. You're going to be stuck with me for 4 more years. But you should give tippy cups to the former supervisors, because I made a big mess with my coffee coming out. And I want to remind you that I'm close to retirement. I want to remind you that I need to fix this government center in this courthouse. I was there 8 hours with some folks on Saturday, just doing the general maintenance around the court building, because we get nada. It costs us a lot of money to get people sent down from Pima in a truck with 2 guys and for a visit to do one thing. We do it ourselves. We have been doing it ourselves and making it our own way. And as I said, Latchkey Justice of the Peace is a title that I don't mind. I'm down there seeking justice, loving mercy, walking humbly, and hoping that you'll support me in all the ways that we're abiding by the rules of criminal justice reform that were presented years ago and adopted in great fashion by the Supreme Court. We want to be a test bed for the community, especially like Green Valley Substation just got the cameras for the Green Valley Sheriff's Department. Use our court for some of the test bed ideas that you've come up. I'm serious when I say it's important for me to recognize Kristen Randall, who came to work with me just recently. You know, she got a good job, but she also got a lot of pushback for coming down. But we have a dream together, and that's to make this a test bed, to make it more efficient. And we've been doing that in every way since she's arrived. I'm glad to have the last of my part say that Gary Harrison and the people that I've served with over the years have been stellar and important parts of Pima County. I just wish that for this budget season, Green Valley will be recognized for the strength that it has in helping. We want to help people. We've never gone in the now it's 25 years this week, I believe, that I've been in office. And I've never set out to hurt anyone. My effort is to help people, and I hope you know that I've put up with a lot of bad business down in Green Valley. We're through it now. We're at the crest of the wave. I do believe that we've got the trajectory that could be very helpful to the new people that come into our precinct. Steve, Matt Hines, Sharon Bronson should get good reports. And as I said before, I promise that if you give me my supplementals, I will walk from Colossal Cave to Sassabee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Judge Carroll, any questions?
Preguntas? Ningunas?
Okay, that's a hard act to follow, Judge Peck.
Give him a supplemental. Thank you for your support. Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Lesher, my name is John Peck. I'm the presiding justice of the Ajo Justice Court. I've given you each a packet of information that details our budget proposal. I'm going to just go over some particular points. This year, our expenses are actually $7,000 less than they were last year. And we've always tried to sort of keep things and watch things very carefully. Our budget has increased by about $8,500, but that's primarily because of personnel costs. And with personnel costs in mind, I will say that when I came into office, we had our FTE was a hefty 11, and as of the first quarter of this new year, it'll be down to 8. So we work very hard to try to make sure that we're cross-trained and we're functioning pretty fully. I wanted to just mention some of the things that we do, that we've tried to do. Our probation officer, for example, used to handle cases only generated through the Ajo Justice Court. I worked with the chief, and we developed a process in which he would also handle probations for Superior Court in Ajo, which made it less likely that people would have to come from Tucson. Probation officers would have to come from Tucson to do those things, and that's been a very efficient, effective way. We do passports in Ajo.
in the last 4 or 5 years, more than 500 passports have been handled through AHO, which has obviated the need for people to go to Yuma or Tucson to get their passports. It also generates a little bit of revenue, and it's really being looked at by other justice courts around the state as a model for them. We got some grants several years ago from our regional health authority, and we tried to convene community discussions with those grants. I'm sorry. Thank you, Steve. Supervisor Christie. Did you want me to repeat any of the other? Okay. Thank you. We used one of these grants to convene a community meeting on aging issues in Ajo. And we brought people from the governor's office and the University of Arizona and the school district and various health communities to Ajo and had a 6-hour meeting. Out of that came, and this was 2.5 years ago, out of that came a focus from Pima College to develop a home health care training program to provide toolkits for extra skills for people to get training to do those things and benefits to the community. We have a lot of aging in place in the community. And Dr. Joseph Gao, who was at Pima College, called me one day and he said, "John, I've got good news and bad news for you about this." I said, "What's the good news?" He said, "Well, we're developing that training program, and we're going to be doing it, and we're very excited about it." And I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, "We're going to locate it in cells." And I said, "That's okay, because that's part of our community too." And we're very excited. That's moving ahead. We're one of the few justice courts in the state that deals with competency issues, Rule 11 issues in our court. We've been just terrifically assisted by the Superior Court and Judge Daniel Lusky in doing that program. Before the pandemic, we were closing in on developing a resource center that was modeled on the resource center at Superior Court that would allow us to help people navigate through Superior Court processes, the things that we were able to help with in a multilingual fashion. We used grants that we had to get computers and printers, and we did training at the Superior Court Resource Center. Then the pandemic hit. We had to pull back on that, but we hope to get that started again in the first quarter of 2023. We also used to do, pre-pandemic, court hearings on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. I'd open the court, we'd have different clerks would come in, we would hear people in custody, we would go to the jail if that was necessary to do that. And the point of that was we wanted to get people in custody released. We wanted to hear them locally, and while it could be done through video court, there's that sort of in-person experience that really is much more client-friendly, if you will. So we had to stop that. We're going to try to pick that up again. That was a minimal cost to us. I have just a great, good fortune to work with judges throughout the state. I'm president of our State Association of Judges. I've done that for 3 years. I get to work with judges in rural areas and in urban areas. I also sit on the Supreme Court's Limited Jurisdiction Committee, along with Judge Bergen. I'm one of the 11 judges that are on the Arizona Judicial Council, which is the advisory council for the Supreme Court on policies and rules. And I get a lot of input. I get a lot of learning experiences from these things. And our justice system is a system being challenged. Just last week I was asked by AOC to head this work group to look at declining judicial filings in limited jurisdiction courts, and we're going to be looking at that and ways that we might address some other situations to help balance those filings. It's a terrific experience, and I value it tremendously for the learning and the engagement and the challenges, and I particularly value my staff. They are supportive and excellent and incredibly steady and patient with me. So, thank you. We're not, as I said, we're not asking for supplementals, but I deeply encourage you to give Ray his. Any questions?
And is there any quid pro quo?
Always.
Yeah, he'll allow me to film him walking from Sassabee to Colossal Cave.
How many miles is it? We're going to tell you right now.
Yeah,
89 miles.
there you go.
We're
Very
in.
good. But not during the summer, Ray.
I'm in.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you. And it's 10:38. We've been at this since 9 o'clock. We're going to take a 7th-inning stretch break.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's here? Oh, I know, but we're going to take a... Oh, well, this has taken longer than we thought. I think people need a break.
Madam Chair.
10 minutes.
Before we take a break, can I make the same request of Ms. Lesher with Judge Carroll's supplemental that we made with Sheriff Nanos's? If the board could get a report after whatever follow-up conversation you have with Judge Carroll? Thank you.
All right. Sorry, but we've been at this, and we really do need to take a break at this point. Be back in 10 minutes. If it's even remotely possible, could we get everybody back to their seats? And my apologies for taking the break earlier than we had anticipated, but sitting for over an hour and a half is not healthy. With that, we're now going to reconvene our regular meeting and our budget hearing with a presentation by the county attorney.
A very good morning, Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, members of the board, County Administrator Lesher. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I want to go over just some brief highlights. I know we've sent you voluminous information in preparation for today, and so I'll cover some brief highlights and, of course, take any questions that you have. As you all know, many of us arrived in January of 2021 pre-vaccine at the height of the pandemic. And additionally, at the county attorney's office, we have to highlight that we were in the middle of a homicide spike, a domestic violence spike, and a domestic violence-induced homicide spike. I asked this board to invest in the office, and it was a huge request. The county attorney's office had not had an agency-wide salary increase since 1997, and so there was a lot to make up for there. And I want to tell you what has happened since. When that came to fruition in the fall and in the last 4 or 5 months, we have successfully recruited attorneys who had left many years ago and asked them to come bring their talents back. 4 attorneys from the Attorney General's office, 1 from Pinal County, 1 from Marana, and 2 from private firms. Those 8 attorneys bring you 89 years of combined felony trial experience at just the right time to go directly into homicide, special victims, and domestic violence. That is an extraordinary return upon your investment. And we thank the board and we thank County Administrator Lesher. We're doing everything we can to answer the needs of the community as we continue on in what has been a dark era for all of us. We have 174 open homicides in the office, and that's why I mentioned how important these attorneys are. As you'll recall, we had 144 pending when I arrived on my first day going back to 2017, and then we picked up a record, I think 119 from Southern Arizona. So your collaboration with me to bring these attorneys back into the office has been overwhelmingly critical and a success. We have vowed to go after fraud and scam, especially in our rural communities and in our elderly communities. We opened the office's first dedicated fraud unit in 20 years, and it is reaching its 1-year birthday and simultaneously reaching $1 million in restitution ordered back to victims of fraud and scam. Our Victim Services Unit answered nearly 6,000 calls for service last year. And in the Civil Division, very importantly, the Employment Law Section and the Health Law Section battled through COVID, giving the best advice possible to every single county agency to take care of all of entire Pima County. And I'll focus on one data point, a 10% uptick in the mental health caseload within that health law unit, as if COVID itself wasn't enough. These are the critical demands upon the Pima County Attorney's Office, and these are the ways in which we are answering them. And I would be happy to take any questions that you might have based on the information we've submitted.
really appreciate all the information you gave us ahead of time. And repeat again how many homicide cases you have.
We have 174 open, and so I'll repeat that we arrived with 144, and then we took on 119 more, and by meeting every Monday, and I'll just repeat how this works. The homicide panel meets now every single Monday, which is historic. That's never happened before. The mornings are dedicated to review of the cases, review of the police reports and evidence, and then the afternoons are presentations to see whether they need to go to trial or they can be resolved otherwise. And we try to do 4 every Monday, and in that way we have tipped the scales back to where we are clearing more than we are bringing in, which is essential because that's not sustainable. Our people are not supposed to be, frankly, taking on that much trauma every single Monday. The health of my people is extraordinarily important to me, and I know to all of you. And so I'm carefully watching for the day, hopefully, in which we can go back to maybe every other Monday. And to that end, I'll add that we have done everything possible to increase all of our prevention work. That's what Saturdays are for. We handed out 6,022 gun locks last year. We work on safety planning with our with domestic violence victims and children and families. All of the prevention work that we're trying to do to do our part in trying to prevent harm before it happens. It goes back to the fraud unit, too. It's not just that we have a dedicated fraud unit. We also launched the Southern Arizona Anti-Fraud Task Force with all fraud detectives and prosecutors from every single agency in Southern Arizona, and we delivered some 18 lectures all over, in particular focusing Green Valley, Quail Creek, Oro Valley, Marana, reaching out to our elderly communities to prevent fraud and scam before it happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Thank you. Ms. Conover, thank you very much for coming in and expanding on the information that we got in the recommended budget book. I wanted to go to 2 of the major departmental issues that you listed in the recommended budget. Number 2 says unacceptably high felony caseloads and need for additional prosecutors and staff to implement expedited plea agreements. That was listed as one of the major departmental issues, but if you look at the FTE in the program budget for criminal prosecution, there are 21 fewer FTE funded by the general fund in criminal prosecution, 12 fewer funded by grants, 3 fewer funded by other special revenue. So does that mean that since there are going to be fewer FTE authorized for prosecutors, that the existing prosecutors are going to have higher caseloads in the coming year?
Well, first, Madam Supervisor and Supervisor Scott, first, this is a perfect opportunity because I was remiss a moment ago. I want you to know that especially when it comes to budget, and every time I appear before you, my information is fueled by the incredible people of the Pima County Attorney's Office. So, of course, with me today is my finance team. Arika Wells runs our entire $39 million budget, and HR, and facilities, and IT. She's extraordinary. Zachary Mack is also with me, and Baird Green, our chief deputy, and I trust that she'll interrupt me and add information as needed. But what I want to say is that we are constantly recruiting. I think that's an echo you've heard now from Sheriff Nanos and from Clerk of the Court Harrison. We're constantly recruiting. That's a big nights and weekends activity for me. And we have some 28 right now that are as we understand the definition in-house, are offer accepted, and they're in the background check process. So that's a huge focus for us because, yes, caseloads are absolutely unacceptably high. Along with running the homicide panel every Monday, it's not sustainable. So we're trying to flood in more personnel, which is not easy, as, again, you've heard every row officer this morning say, but we had 2 more prosecutors start yesterday morning.
No, I don't doubt that recruitment is ongoing. And again, the only numbers that we can deal with are the ones that are presented to us. But what I'm seeing is in that criminal prosecution program budget, 36 fewer prosecutors being requested than were in last year's budget.
I'm going to have to turn this over to finance, please. Thank you.
To answer your question, yes, and I'll let Zach take the lead, but it's my understanding that some of those positions were taken in our previous budget season for COVID and things of that nature.
There's 21 fewer positions in our general fund under criminal prosecution. What we did this year, we extracted our victim services division. So 21 positions were for victim advocates and advocate assistants. They have been moved out of criminal prosecution to stand alone on their own, including grants to go along with that and some special revenues. So all those positions you see are now been moved over to our Victim Services Bureau.
Okay.
Separated.
May I expand on that? You guys think it's one. Thank you so much, Zach. Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, that's extremely helpful because I can expand upon that. Upon arrival, just the organization chart had victim services under the criminal division, which was rife with some conflict. They don't work for the prosecutors, they advocate for victims. And that's a real critical distinction. And so we moved them out of the org chart and they are not under criminal anymore. They do not report to criminal. And I think that's been a huge improvement in services and in respecting the professionalism of our victim advocates.
So you were taking advantage of something that came up during our discussion with some of the other department heads, which is your ability to move PCNs within your budget. And that was actually my second question, because your third major departmental issue is additional victim advocates to address increasing need for victim services 24/7, 365. And then we see that the Victim Services Program, which wasn't in last year's adopted budget, has, that's where all those FTE went, not just the ones in the general fund, but also the ones that are funded by grants and other special revenue? Because it looks like it's almost exactly the same numbers with the exception of grants.
That is correct, and there was one additional PCN added that is an advocate supervisor.
Okay.
And it was for a grant that we're anticipating getting, so there was actually one new position that was added to that total, and it's under our grants.
Okay, that's very helpful to me, and it also is helpful to hear that even given this shift into this new program, that the remaining prosecutors are not going to be unduly affected, at least any more affected than they already were.
Yes. Madam Chair, Supervisor Scott, no, I appreciate this opportunity to clarify, because truly what's happening is you're getting a whole lot more information than you used to get, because the Victim Services Division, and you've heard me call it the crown jewel, it's been there for decades, but it was under criminal. It wasn't separated out for you. Okay. And now it is, which gives us a whole lot more data. It's in recognition that they are professionals, these advocates who handle these cases. And when they were under criminal, we found, do we call it mission creep, where suddenly they're, helping with transcriptions and doing paralegal work, or suddenly translating, interpreting, which deprives them of what they're supposed to be doing, which is pure victim advocacy, which couldn't be more important.
Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
Chair Bronson, I just wanted to thank you for working with our office in handing out the gun safety locks in one weekend. It was like 1,400 of them. And so it was interesting when I was working with the Pima County Fairgrounds and the organizers of the gun show. They said, well, I don't know how many people are going to want one. And so it was great because it's like obviously there was a need there, and so I'm hoping that we can continue to do more of those projects to really prevent crimes from happening, and I know that's the goal for everyone, so I appreciate your work on that as well.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, Supervisor Grijalva, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, then we'll go to Public Defense Services. Who's presenting?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Public Defense Services efficiently provides high-quality representation for indigent defendants. We do this in a number of manners. We do this in felony cases. We handle misdemeanors. The misdemeanors that we handle are the ones that are handled not by city municipalities, but are things like DPS, Sheriff's Department, Community College, U of A PD, Airport Authority, things like that. We handle all of the appeals that come from those cases. We handle juvenile delinquencies, which are minors that are charged with crimes. We handle dependency cases where the government is seeking to sever the rights of parents. We do things like we try to prevent those things from happening. We have a program within the Public Defender's Office called the Family Preservation Legal Clinic. His goal is to try to prevent dependency cases from being filed in the first place. We do that by being able to get things like orders of protection that are going to prevent DCS from needing to get involved. We have a program called DAP, which is Dependency Alternative Program, that's handled by the Legal Defender's Office that, again, has a goal of trying to head off dependency cases when they can. Our department handles court-ordered evaluations for individuals who have mental health problems. We handle court-ordered treatment for them. And we have people that act as guardians, conservators, or personal representatives when there are no other people to handle those situations. We do that with a grand total of 7 separate offices. We have the public defender, we have the legal defender, and we have the legal advocate. We have the Office of Court-Appointed Counsel, which is responsible for coordinating numerous contracts with hundreds of independent contractors that handle cases in all kinds of areas to handle the overflow that happens when we can't handle all the cases, and we can't. We have the mental health defender. We have the Office of Court-Appointed Counsel, or Office of Children's Counsel, and we have the Office of the Public Fiduciary. All of these are managed by my department, which is the Public Defense Services Administration Unit, which has got 7 or 8 employees plus myself to help coordinate all of those things. Felonies are handled by the public defender, the legal defender, and the legal advocate. And when they're full, and they are always full these days, we have to have the Office of Court-Appointed Counsel step in to assign cases out to individual contract attorneys. There's a concept called Joe U. Smith, which is where caseload limits are set by case law that says that we cannot handle more cases than we can effectively provide representation for. And the Public Defender's Office is the primary point of representation. They get almost every case, and then the cases that have conflicts go to the Legal Defender's Office. And then the Legal Advocate's Office gets approached to say, can you handle cases right now? And we try to keep the expensive, more serious cases in-house when we can, because we found that that's more cost-effective. Appeals are handled by a small unit within the Public Defender's Office and the Legal Defender's Office, but we also have numerous OCAC lawyers that handle appeals when necessary. Misdemeanors have been handled by the Public Defender's Office, but with the massive rise in caseloads that were coming up shortly before COVID, we had to temporarily have all of our misdemeanor attorneys start handling felonies because those cost more, and we need to use every available body that we had to handle cases. Delinquency cases are handled by specialty units of the Public Defender's Office. But again, if there's a conflict, OCAC attorneys have to step in and take those. Dependency cases are handled by specialty units of the Public Defender's Office. The Legal Defender's Office has a unit, and the Office of Children's Counsel represents primarily children in those cases. But again, there are contract attorneys that have to be brought in to handle the overflow. The mental health cases are handled exclusively by our mental health defender, who now has one extra attorney assigned to our office because the number of mental health cases that have come up during the COVID pandemic have skyrocketed, and we just weren't able to keep up with the number of mental health cases that were out there. The public fiduciary, Peter Santini, just recently retired. At your next board meeting, you'll be considering my request to have Justin Clerk appointed as the next public fiduciary for Pima County. His office, or the Office of the Public Fiduciary, represents wards when they have an incapacity, when there's a demonstrated need that their office can fulfill, and when there's no least restrictive option or somebody else of a higher priority to take over the case. Public Defense Services Administration, my small unit, provides supervision and administrative support for all of these offices. So with that, talked about some of the projects that Public Defense Services has pending. We have a case management system that we have been engaged in an RFP for. We are getting close to being able to have one selected and are figuring out ways that we're going to be able to fund and support that. Our new case management system is going to provide us with some things that we don't currently have, which are automated billing that's going to be able to have the contract attorneys are going to be able to enter their information in there and not have the OCAC staff having to be the one that enters all the information into the system, which is going to be greatly add to the efficiency of the system. It's going to have accessibility by our clients to be able to see their files without having to get a paper copy of everything that comes out to see them. They're going to be able to access their information in their cases electronically, which is going to make things far more efficient. The system is going to be housed in the cloud, which is going to make our reliance on in-house county IT greatly reduced. And it's going to be mean that we don't rely on not only the storage space. Public Defense Services is the largest user of storage space within the county, but it's also going to mean that there's fewer staff within IT that's going to have to help us with things. And most importantly, part of our new system is going to be that it has the flexibility regarding data collection, which is going to be greatly effective in being able to adapt to the rapidly changing needs of criminal justice reform. One of our other big projects that I'm looking forward to getting accomplished is that we have a community bond program that we're hopeful will get get a RFP bid for this time. We've done that once. The bid had to get canceled. Kate Vesley with Defense Justice Services has volunteered to help us with making a presentation to the community so that we can educate the potential vendors on what it takes to establish a bonding agency for a nonprofit. And we're hopeful that that's going to increase the attention that this draws, and that we will get somebody to successfully bid on that RFP. Some of the challenges that we're facing within Public Defense Services. We are delighted to have been a partner in establishing the STEPS program for personal possession drug charges. We are waiting to see how that program is working. We're still waiting to see the data to show how effective it is. But in the meantime, it is proving to be a rather large drain on our staff. We thought that it was going to be only an attorney or two devoted to that, and it's turning out that we're having more staff devoted to that program because the volume of people that are coming into that program is exceeding what we had originally anticipated. One of the challenges we have with that program is we've got a great acceptance rate. When people show up to the program, thus far 100% of the people have decided to participate in it. The problem is that we're only getting about 50% of the people to show up. So we're working on trying to have creative solutions to try to encourage people and get them more information so that they're more likely to show up for this program. One of the other big challenges that we have within Public Defense Services is that disclosure is a increasing problem. The biggest disclosure issue that we're getting is body-worn cameras. The biggest change recently is that the Sheriff's Department and DPS have both gone to having all of their officers wearing body-worn cameras. And every time there's a body-worn camera, that means that there's a lot more information that needs to get reviewed, a lot more things that can be seen. And every time we need to get that information, it has to go through a unit at the county attorney's office that has to painfully watch every minute of body-worn camera that gets sent to us and carefully make sure that there's not any victim information in there that needs to get redacted. So that has added a lot of time and a lot of delay towards cases that are making things take longer. And I know that the county attorney is struggling with that. It's a difficult unit to staff, but again, it's a bottleneck for the information that comes to us. One thing that you may not have paid attention to is that the way that jury trials are being conducted has changed slightly. I'm a member of the jury trial task force with the Administrative Office of the Courts, and we've eliminated peremptory challenges, which is drastically changing how jury selection happens with felony and misdemeanor cases. But we're adapting with the courts, and we're trying to make this work as best we can and make things better for how jury trials are conducted. Caseloads are always on the rise. I constantly watch the numbers, and the number of cases that the county attorney has every case that they have has to have representation, and we always have to provide a lawyer for every single case that comes in. And that has been a challenge. Fortunately, the numbers have crested a little bit and are coming back down, but we've been dangerously close to not having enough lawyers to be able to have a lawyer for everybody for every case that comes in. We haven't reached that point yet, but it's been scary how close we've gotten to the point where we've got so few people that are willing to take cases within the Office of Court-Appointed Counsel that there have been days where we're having to literally make phone calls to try to shake things up to see if we can find people that can take new cases. Hiring has been a challenge. It is always, with us, our biggest pool of people are attorneys, and those are hard to come by these days. But we've been having some successes. One of our biggest limitations has been office space. Not having enough space has been a challenge, but the addition of the PDS building has helped. The OCC building that's about to be completed will help with that as well. And one of the other things that's helped immensely with that is that the flexibility regarding telecommuting is now meaning that some of our attorneys that primarily do appeals that don't really need to be at an office to be able to do their job are able to telecommute, which is going to open up some space as well. We are looking forward to trying to fill every position that we have. We, like everybody else, have constantly open positions that we advertise one position for, and are always looking to fill our offices with quality people. And we have had some successes recently, and that we are starting to recruit from other states, which is helping with diversity. And we just had a person that came to work for us because of somebody else that had managed to come here from elsewhere. So we're starting to develop good networking skills and getting more people to see Tucson for the beautiful place it is to come and work, and it's not snowing all the time, so that helps a lot too. So with that, those are all the points that I have for this morning, unless the board has questions.
Any questions?
Chair Bronson, if we can get some information on the community bond program at some point and what's going on with that.
I believe Ms. Vesley is working on an update for the board on that.
Perfect, thanks.
That program is being handled by her department.
Okay.
So.
All right, if there are no further questions, then Justice Services is up next. Ms. Vesley.
Good morning, Supervisor Bronson, Supervisors. It's a great privilege to see you all this morning and be able to talk with you about your new department, Justice Services. My name is Kate Vesley, and I am the new department director. So this is our first rodeo. This is our first year of being an actual department. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about some of the things we do to give you a better idea about what we've been working on. Throughout the course of this year, we have been transitioning from a unit within county administration to a full department. So we were formerly known as the Criminal Justice Reform Unit. We are a lean machine of only 7 employees, including myself, and we are blessed with an extraordinary team of individuals who are very dedicated to this work. They're highly innovative and very passionate about serving this community. The stakes of the justice system are high for any community, and justice well done means that victims can be made whole, the community is safer, and while an individual is being held accountable for their actions, they're also receiving tools and resources to not only improve their outlook in life, but the outlook of those who are around them. Each element of our justice system has a role to play in the process. You guys have been hearing about those elements all morning long. Each of those elements has interests and values that they have a sworn duty to represent. Our interest is supporting these partners to make the best possible justice system for our community. It's the goal of the Justice Services Department to act as a neutral entity in this process. We're here to provide resources, information, tools, data, funding, especially to each intercept of our justice system. We accomplish this by providing services to county leadership, our justice system partners, and the community overall. To county leadership, we provide independent evaluation, research, data collections, recommendations, and a lot of convening, trying to bring groups of people together. We're also the home to the Housing First program, which provides permanent supportive housing to individuals with mental health and substance use concerns who have repetitive involvement in the justice system. We did an outside evaluation to determine the efficacy of the program, and we found that there was a significant reduction in recidivism, but also cost savings to emergency services and public safety. For each person that was enrolled in the Housing First program, our RAND Corporation estimated there was a $4,000 saved to the justice system. There was a 60% reduction in the utilization of the jail, a 72% reduction in the utilization of pretrial services, so big impact all around. Plus, I think at least 10 babies have been born into the program. I think there might be even more now since I last looked. And think about how different those babies' lives are now being born into housing, supportive housing, as opposed to being born into homelessness. The trajectory of their lives will be permanently altered. In order to ensure the sustainability of this program, but also limit the need for these local funding, we applied for and received a $1.1 million federal grant in the last year. That's over 4 years. We also work with our program partner, Old Pueblo Community Services, to identify other funding and cost savings. This has cut the county's portion of funding for this program down by 50% and sustained the program for at least another 4 to 5 years. To our justice system partners, we listen to their needs. I'm always asking, what's your wish list? What do you want to work on? All the time we hear those anecdotes of, it would be so great if we could have this resource, this program, if only fill in the blank. Justice Services fills in those blanks. That's why we exist. Since last summer, we've implemented multiple programs. Almost all of these are in conjunction with some system partner. We don't do anything in a vacuum. We started the CALL program, which, utilizing a federal grant fund, provides a free cell phone to vulnerable justice-involved individuals who would not otherwise have the ability to communicate with community supervision, access treatment and social services, or receive reminders to appear in court. These phones were distributed to adult probation, pretrial services, and the treatment court program, including our partner program, which is the STEPS program. We routinely partner with other county departments and city equivalents to incorporate justice elements into things like health and housing and employment and community safety, because justice tends to be involved in all those little tendrils. We've begun the work in partnership with the Analytics and Data Governance Department to create a new justice warehouse. When completed, our justice system partners will be able to look at data from each of those intercepts and see how data from their intercept compares to other elements before or after. This is my 14th year being involved in the Southern Arizona Crisis Intervention Team Training Program, the CIT program. It is a 40-hour, it started out as a law enforcement training program. We do it in partnership with the County Attorney's Office, Tucson Police Department, the Pima County Sheriff's Department, and this 40-hour training is not just for police anymore. We've expanded to dispatchers, corrections officers, probation officers. We've had the Special Security Forces from Davis-Monthan, and even this last month we had 2 FBI agents who had glowing reviews about the program itself. And so we've been hoping to increase our 2 program a year to 3 or 4 times if we can. We're also continuing to be the home of the Macarthur Safety and Justice Challenge. As we begin to wind down our participation in that program over the next 1.5 to 2 years, we're looking at finding sustainability for all those strategies to ensure that we keep it going. To our community, Justice Services has sought to create a space of transparency, access to information, and increasing community capacity. But most importantly, we've approached our community with the goal of building trust in diverse communities who may not have historically had buy-in with working with the justice system. In the 10 months since this department's creation, we have accomplished about $1.7 million in grant funding over 3 different grants. If you look at our funds by program, you can see about 2/3 of our program funding comes from grants. We've continued our community collaborative. Many of you have participated at various points over the years. We've launched a new program called the Reroute Project, which is a partnership with the YWCA of Southern Arizona with the goal of systemically addressing racial and ethnic disparities in our justice system and changing the trajectory of the youth lives in our community. We started the HEAT program, which is an intervention for young black men who have substance use concerns and involvement with the justice system. It's an intervention program. We started the Learning Collective, which is training and resources open to everybody, professionals, individuals with lived experience, and especially our community. It's a free resource. In the fall, we did a 6-part series on trauma with Dr. Damon Holt. In the spring, we did a 4-part series on implementing tools to address implicit bias and racism. And we hope to continue it this summer by doing a series on restorative justice, which is a big priority of the County Attorney's Office. Our community engagement and equity specialist has routinely participated in evening and weekend community fairs, trying to share information about how to navigate the justice system. The justice system can be very intimidating and overwhelming, especially if you have a loved one who's had their first contact. What is an initial appearance, and how do I show up for my pretrial services requirements? Having information, being out there visible in the community with actual people to be able to talk to and help navigate the system has been really critical. We plan to continue this work next year, partnering with adult probation in particular to really address warrant resolution and reducing those failures to appear. In the next year, we hope to update our website to help navigate the justice system, more of those resources, what happens at this type of hearing, what resources are available to me or my loved one. We have partnered with the Tucson Pima Collaboration to End Homelessness, who has for many years had a guidelines on getting out, the GO-GO, and they are going to be transferring that guide over to us. We are applying for a grant to support our CIT program, and we hope to apply for national certification to be the regional program for CIT for all of Southern Arizona. We want to work with our elected officials and justice system leadership to create a strategic plan, and from this work, identify resource priorities so that we can go hunting for grants to fulfill those resource needs. We want to work with public defense services to implement the community bond program. We're going back into the RFP process again. You'll have more information on that soon. We're going to hopefully work with the County Attorney's Office to support their vision of creating a restorative justice program. We've already received grant funding that we're going to be rolling out over the next couple of months to implement a transportation program, which will help transport people directly to court. So really trying to reduce those failures to appear. We're working with our partners at the YWCA to conduct community listening sessions and begin the planning of a racial justice center. We've been partnering with the health department and other partners in the county, city, and business community to help reduce gun violence, which, as you all know, has been a big issue, and continue to work with our fellow justice system agencies to safely reduce the jail population. We believe the safest way to do that is to reduce justice system involvement in the first place and reducing failures to appear warrants. This not only saves taxpayer dollars, but it makes the community a safer place. So 2 funds support us, the general fund and grants, as I already mentioned. We're about 2/3 under grant. About $530,000 of the grant fund, or the general funds, go directly to Old Public Community Services for Housing First. We've dropped our staffing from 8 to 7 this year by transferring one of our FTEs over to analytics and data governance. That is a data position that's going to work not only on our jail population analysis, but also working on the new Justice Data Center. And our grants is about $1.5 million of the year, and we hope to do several more applications this year in order to increase that. In my 20 years of working in the justice system, I have never felt more optimistic about the future of this work. There is a lot left to do, but we have never had a better tool belt for addressing this work than we do right now in this time and place. Even before the Macarthur Safety and Justice Challenge, Pima County has been known as a national leader for innovation in the justice system, and we are now regarded as a model for excellence, and it's only going to get better from here with the leadership and the resources that we have coming our way. Leaders travel from all over the country to learn about how we do the things that we do here, and more importantly, marvel at our interagency collaboration. Justice Services aims to bring in resources and provide support for our leadership, our system partners, and our community to continue our innovation, progress, and national leadership in this field. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Ms. Vesely, thank you very much for your comprehensive presentation and for all of your hard work. I'm really intrigued by the concept of the Justice Warehouse that you talked about earlier, and if you could work with Ms. Lesher to get some updates on the progress of that endeavor to the board, I'd be very grateful.
Any other questions? All right, then thank you, and we will now move on to the assessor.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. First, I'd like to start off by thanking all of you and Ms. Lesher for all of the support you guys have given me over the last year and a half. It's been an adventure at the assessor's office. Again, I'll tell everybody how happy I am to be back there, and even more happy for the changes that we've been able to make in the assessor's office since I've started my adventure as assessor. One of the things that we were asked to do was let everybody know what we do at the assessor's office. I know that I was before you not long ago and gave you our annual report, and a lot of the information that we gave you there was an update on what's been happening out in Pima County, kind of in the real estate world, as that's what I deal with at the assessor's office on a primary basis. But one thing we're going to go over today, because most of my budget does have to deal with payroll, and there's a reason for that. And so I thought maybe we would touch on what departments we have at the assessor's office and what they do. I think it might be enlightening to quite a few people. Most of the time when asked, the general response I give is that we are responsible for locating, listing, and valuing all property in Pima County that is required to be listed on the roll for taxation purposes. And this includes real property and personal property. But I've got a whole list in front of me here of other things that we do at the assessor's office that I just kind of wanted to touch on, because I've got hundreds of people over there that aren't recognized. We maintain and keep up to date all the ownership lists of properties across Pima County. We maintain and apply valuation relief programs. We maintain and adjust and create maps throughout the county. We do parcel reconfigurations at the assessor's office. We prepare levy limits for various taxing authorities. We assist business owners with development concerns with respect to valuation and taxation. We assist property owners during catastrophic events. We educate not only taxpayers on the programs and services available to them, but we also educate employees in the assessor's office to make sure that they are doing the job correctly and accurately. We defend our valuation before the State Board of Equalization. We assist taxpayers with valuation concerns and appeals. We create educational materials for taxpayers and staff, perform high-level sales analysis and ratio studies for the Arizona Department of Revenue. We do outreach through attendance at community functions. We visit libraries and help educate the community through engagement. There's more, but we're limited to 15 minutes. So that's some of the things that we do at the assessor's office besides just evaluating properties. The divisions we have at the assessor's office right now are staffed with 107 full-time employees. We have 36 vacancies, and I know these numbers were already presented to you. I'm going to go over our divisions and what they do. We have a real property division that has 33 active employees and 14 vacancies. They are the people that list and locate all of the properties to put on the rolls. There's 435,188 properties for tax year 2022. Of those, we had 5,104 new home permits, which was a 17.7 increase over tax year 2021, which means there was over 4,000 new house permits in 2021. New home permits average about 400 to 450 per month in Pima County right now. We had 21,734 closings for residential properties and 100 across Arizona. And what that equates to for the assessor's office is for every one of those closings, affidavit of sales gets presented to the recorder's office. That comes to us. All of the titles need to be changed for ownership. So for those 21,734 properties that closed, there's about 80,000 actions that need to be taken to make sure that those are properly processed. And that happens at the assessor's office. Commercial industry, 126,043 commercial properties in Tucson. Tucson was named one of the top 10 commercial real estate markets for 2021. What that means for the assessor's office is that we're very busy out there making sure that all of those businesses are listed, they're valued properly, and that those businesses know how this valuation affects them and their bottom line and what they need to do to ensure that they're being budgeted properly on their end so that we don't get some of those phone calls and unnecessary appeals because they're trying to adjust their budgets using the property tax system. That's one of the things we're working very hard to stop at the assessor's office. We have had 493 commercial sales and 2,200 new commercial permits last year. 177 new commercial properties were added to the tax base. 42,978 vacant parcels of land were valued by the assessor's office. For all of that valuation we did, which was a lot, we ended up with 1,967 A-level appeals meetings from appeals, and took over 1,000 of those to the State Board of Equalization to be heard in front of them to rectify values. So that's what happens in the real property department. Our personal property department has 35 active employees, 10 vacancies, and we have over 59,612 business accounts right now in Pima County. We did 6,000 business personal property filings, 1,000 exemption applications were processed, and 4,500 leasing returns were reviewed and processed. My mapping department has 3 employees and 1 vacancy right now. We maintained and adjusted over 13,000 maps last year at the assessor's office. My IT department, our IT department designs and creates all the programs that we use in the assessor's department to make our valuations go easier, to do record keeping and tracking. They do our network security. Last year, I was looking into bringing some programs in from the outside, and we decided to vacate that. We realized that our IT department is able to do everything they're able to do on the outside, and it also saves the Pima County on the average of about $3 million a year. So our IT department, we feel, is extremely important, and we really value them. Our customer service department, we have 14 active employees in my customer service department, 5 vacancies. Customer service obviously is really important to me. It's what I ran on. They are the heart of my office. They are the first contact with the taxpayers of Pima County. They not only answer valuation questions, but they answer questions. It seems we've noticed to be like one of the first calls. I don't know if our number is just on the top of the list because I begin with an A, but we get a lot of calls on a lot of things, and we direct people out to other areas of the county. We took over 34,000 calls last year. They assist with the library visits, and they assist every area of the office, other areas of the office when needed, when they're short-staffed or have additional workload that they can't handle. We have a CAMA department, which is responsible for the mass model application evaluation. They analyze market and sales data, they identify trends in the market, and they ensure the equitable valuation across the county. I also have a litigation department. I have 3 employees in my litigation department. They have been working hard. When I entered this office, we had a lot of litigation cases out there. We have settled all but 9. And I want it noted that no property tax cases were filed by the assessor's office against the taxpayers of Pima County since I have taken office. And we have no plans to do so. What we're doing at the assessor's office, what we've done besides all of this, is we've been working with CoreLogic to do computerized cost approach to value. We're switching over to the national standard. We are now in phase 2 of that. I know I talked about it a little bit last year. We're moving along with that, and we hope to have that in place for tax year 2025. What we've accomplished, I've gone over with everybody before. I'll just touch on them quickly again. We're doing public outreach now at the assessor's office. We attended the Saba Home Show. We do library visits. We've been at some community fairs. We've reached out to, and I've attended a lot of HOA meetings, neighborhood association meetings, getting information out there on valuation. And we've created several brochures and literature that we've been distributing throughout the county at various places. We're working on getting brochures out to the Tucson Real Estate Association, or Association of Real Estate Realtors, sorry. We're getting information out to them so that they can explain to their clients what property taxes is. It's something that really fell through the cracks when it came to real estate. A lot of home buyers, business owners had no idea what property taxes were, and so we're getting information out to them to make sure that all of your constituents are educated and they know what property taxes are, how they work with their mortgage, and what they go to pay for, hopefully alleviating some of the questions that come into your office. We started business services. So far, we have completed 12 major projects, working with Sun Corridor, with Pima County Economic Development, and the City of Tucson Economic Development, doing location analysis, property tax analysis, 5-year projections, things of that nature to help businesses coming into Pima County and businesses that already exist, to make sure, again, like I say, they are able to do their budgeting for their businesses, to make sure that the businesses in Pima County are also thriving, because that creates jobs and keeps our economy going. We also, the rapid response team that I've created. Last year, I told you we reached out to and helped over 115 taxpayers. This year so far, we've reached out to 97 taxpayers and helped over 97, and we are now just entering the busy season for fires and flooding and things like that with the monsoons coming up. So we expect that number this year to actually triple. So we are getting out into the community and helping taxpayers. One of the things we plan to do in the future that you'll be hearing more about as the year goes on, I like to keep in constant contact with you guys, as you know, so that everybody knows what we're doing. I would like to, in an effort to limit contact but maintain connection, work on doing electronic filing, so that we are up and ready to go in the event that we ever do have another catastrophic event, such as COVID, or if the numbers start to go back up. We really need to be in a place at the assessor's office where we're not having to take appeals in or take 504s, which are business filings, in face-to-face. Doing this electronically over the computer is not only the way it's done across the nation, but it's also safer for employees and for taxpayers. So we're working on making a lot of our programs and things like that electronic, services electronic. Another thing that we're working on doing is we are working on utilizing GIS, computerized mapping systems and valuation. We are really behind the rest of the nation when it comes to utilizing the images and things that we can get through programs and products that Pima County already uses. They are able to, the mapping systems and the aerial images are able to identify new additions that haven't been picked up and things like that, things that were there last year that are no longer there, or vice versa. So we're working on beefing up our systems and getting employees in place to do stuff like that. That will alleviate some of the pressure as far as getting out into the field and manually going out there and walking up and down blocks to try to locate escaped property. So that's what we're working on. Do you guys have any questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Thank you. Ms. Drewby, thank you very much for your presentation and all your hard work. I appreciate what you just said about trying to get up to national standards with regard to the use of GIS. It reminds me of something that you said last year, which is, weren't we the last of the 15 counties to start to incorporate the use of CoreLogic?
Yes, we were. Yeah.
And I note that that is one of the significant changes that you mentioned in your department, but it's the first one that I wanted you to expand on, if you could, which is the comprehensive audits for personal property to recapture escaped revenue from business personal property accounts for the previous 3 years.
Yeah. Business personal property is a self-reporting system at the assessor's office, and what that means is that businesses are required to report their business personal property to the county, and then that is taxed. And so what the auditing system does is it allows, we're contracting with a company that specializes in this. They go out to the businesses and they just take what they've reported and they compare it to what they see when they're at their businesses to make sure that it's correct. If it's incorrect and there has been stuff that's been underreported, then what they do is they give us that list and we reconcile it, and then we are able to go back 3 years and capture that lost revenue for the county based on the inaccurate filing.
So we're hoping for honest self-disclosure, but this is a way of ensuring that the disclosures are as accurate as possible.
Yes, yeah, it really is. And the other thing is that what it is also doing by utilizing this company, we hope to not have to use them year after year after year, because one of the things I ensured with this contract is that my business personal property staff can accompany them along on these audits, and that they would train them, our staff, on how to do these audits, so that eventually this is something that the business personal property team in my office will be able to do themselves and save the county that revenue. So this will be a short expenditure for the county until we can get our staff trained to do these audits ourselves.
And it'll become more of an internal function then?
Yes.
And then just wanted to ask if you could give some additional explanation. I think it was probably embedded in your overall presentation as to the reason for moving 17 FTE out of the program dealing with assessor statutory mandates and into the program dealing with administration.
The reason I'm new to the budgeting, and we have an internal budget person, and it's not necessarily that they're moved into administration as much as we've got special teams listed under administration, and so the rapid response, the business services, the outreach, and all of that is now considered part of administration, and we're working on that to better label that and categorize that, and budget's helping us with that so that it's easier to understand. So, yes.
Madam Chair?
Supervisor.
On the business personal property tax, what triggers an audit?
It's not triggered by anything. It's very random. Basically, we just pull a random number each year of audits to do based on the budget that we have with the company that we're contracting, depending on size and what the industry is. It costs a certain amount, and we've only got a certain budget. So it's random. I'm not hand-picking specific properties to go out there and audit.
And how much revenue is derived from these audits?
In the past, we have brought in, or the practice has always been when they do the audits to just correct the roll and go forward with the revenue based on what we have found.
And how much would that be roughly on
I don't have the exact number in front of me, and I can get that for you.
As a former business owner, of course, this was a very touchy subject because we looked at it as something of a disincentive to invest in our own business because we would be taxed on any kind of equipment purchase that would help our business grow or expand. And we viewed it as kind of punitive. And that's why I asked what triggers the audits, and is there a dedicated source of revenue that is expected from these audits every year? Or?
No, it's not that. It's more of a mechanism to go out there and, like Supervisor Scott inferred, that if the audits are conducted and people know the audits are conducted, it's more of an incentive to just be accurate when you report to begin with.
You say when they know they are being conducted. How would they know
when
they're being conducted if they're random?
Well, that's just it. They're random. So it's kind of like when you do your taxes. You know, there's a possibility that the IRS could come knocking on your door and say, we're going to audit. We're going to look at your tax returns. So it has a tendency to keep people very honest because they never know if they're going to be chosen to be audited or not. And it's the same mentality.
Maybe a proactive role in these situations. For instance, OSHA used to do a courtesy inspection of a business and would make an audit of possible OSHA infractions at no charge or no punitive penalty. And the businesses would have a month to comply with them. And it was a very proactive issue because you became educated in what OSHA is requiring, and you knew how to avoid any kind of penalties by not complying. Is there any kind of a educational outreach proactive area that the assessor's office could do to enable businesses to know?
Yes, actually, well, as we all know, I'm the outreach queen now. And yeah, we are creating brochures for every single area of the assessor's office, and business personal properties is one of the brochures that we are coming up with, and we are making sure that it is in everybody's hands that deal with the business community. And so I will be making sure that everybody understands exactly how the business personal property filings work. The other thing to remember is there's a very large exemption amount, so to speak, for business personal property. They have to exceed, I believe the last number was well over $200,000 worth of business personal property before they even had to file. And so there's that. So these are larger businesses that typically have been doing this for a long time and understand how the process works. that are the ones that are paying into business personal property. The other thing is I want everybody to be very clear that along with these audits, we're also doing stuff as an assessor and working with other assessors across the state to help the business communities with business personal property. I'm not sure if you're aware of the statute that was just passed that says that any new acquisitions for businesses across Arizona will now be taxed at a 2% ratio, or 2.5, don't quote me on that, I'll get you the statute, going forward, which is going to reduce the liability burden for personal property for businesses across the state of Arizona, and that goes to helping attract businesses to Arizona for that reason.
If you could give me that statute, I'd appreciate
Yeah.
it, as well as a synopsis of revenues collected by these audits.
Yes, I'll get you all of that
At least
information.
since you've been in office.
Yeah, yep.
And
yeah.
maybe a comparative from your predecessor.
Yes, definitely. I just want, like I said, I want to be clear. It's one of those where there's a very fine line that I walk in the assessor's office. I have to make sure that everybody is doing what they need to do by the statute, and that's the residential community and the business community. But I'm also fighting every day to ensure that the residential community and the business community is being treated fairly, and that is by supporting some of these bills that do give some of our businesses a break, but also fighting for our residential homeowners to ensure that when these shifts happen in the tax burden, that our residential community is being taken care of. I'm very proud of my efforts in fighting for both sides of the tax equation.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the recorder. Thank you.
Skugtash Board of Supervisors, Anya Nipchugi Gabriela Cáceres Kelly, Ms. Mojkuk Amjad, Anya Woodka Pima Chukran Ohahandam. Good day, Board of Supervisors. As you know, my name is Gabriela Cáceres Kelly, and I always introduce myself in the traditional way if I can. I'm from the communities of Pismo and Kupk, which are located on the Untitled Nation, which is in beautiful District Number 3. And I'm the Pima County Recorder, though I now live in District 1. The Pima County Recorder's Office serves two very separate and distinct functions that are critical to the constituents of Pima County: voting and recording. On the recording side, we record and secure public documents. They will be housed in our system in perpetuity. Most records that we receive are property-related: deeds, property maps, agreements, liens, etc. We record an average of 3,000 documents per week. Document recording is our main revenue-generating service. We make money in recording, and we provide exceptional constituent services for Pima County. We tend to be busiest at the end of each month, and particularly at the end of each quarter and year. New homeowners are not able to receive the keys to their homes until we record their documents. So it's important that we process their paperwork in a timely manner. Our work is reflective of the housing industry, real estate, and it's cyclical. Some of the most important changes that we've made this year include the ability for customers to make payments online. Prior to the implementation of our online payment system in July 2021, customers would have to physically come to our office to pay by check or credit card at the front desk, or they'd have to mail a paper check. This service was in such high demand that customers found the function on our website before we were even able to advertise. The other huge change, which has been really wonderful, has been that we are now able to allow customers to view all public documents online within 2 to 3 days of recording for free. Personal information is redacted from each document, and they are made available to the public. Previously, customers would set up a prepaid account and purchase documents, but couldn't actually view them until they had already purchased the document. Their other options were to physically come into our downtown office or the east side office and use our public terminals to research properties. That was the only way that you could receive that information. Now, customers are able to view a low-resolution watermarked version of all public documents recorded from June 1982 to current. Customers can then choose to purchase a non-watermarked high-resolution document online through our website, and documents recorded prior to June 1982 are only available to view on those same public terminals housed on site. We're continuing to index those documents, working backwards from June 1982, though it's a years-long project that will become even more difficult as the documents become harder to read. Our challenges in the recording side have been mostly related to staffing. It takes nearly 6 months to adequately train recording technicians to be able to index a document correctly. It is much more than just data entry and requires a better understanding of the purpose of the document itself. Pay is not currently reflective of the demand of the position, and we have been working for the past 9 months with Human Resources to reclassify our positions to better reflect the scope of work being done. We're also challenged with using a homegrown, outdated recording system. It's often described by my programmers as having been Frankenstein together. It's a 13-year-old program that we have made many adjustments to. It makes it difficult to provide basic services like the online pay portal and the programming of statutory changes like fees. We encounter technical roadblocks often, and the language of the system uses is just outdated and nearly obsolete. We have budgeted for a replacement system to be used with special revenue dollars. The special revenue fund is paying for technological advances. The other important function that our office provides is voter. On the voting side of the house, we are responsible for maintaining the records of 625,000 registered Pima County voters. This includes the daily processing of new voter registrations, name and address changes, or cancellations due to death or constituents moving to new jurisdictions. We process more than 500 new voter registrations or changes per week, and that number dramatically increases during congressional and presidential election years, but that maintenance continues to happen daily throughout the year. We also utilize statewide and national data to ensure the proper maintenance of our voting rolls. This includes utilizing reports from the Arizona Department of Motor Vehicles, Arizona Department of Health Services, ERIC Cross-State Mover Report, Arizona Secretary of State's AVID database, and data from the United States Post Office National Change of Address forms. We're responsible for early voting, which includes the mailing of nearly 470,000 mail ballots. We examine every single signature on the ballot affidavits that are returned and verify them against the signatures we maintain in our voter database. We don't open the ballot affidavits. We simply verify the signatures before turning them over to the Elections Department for tabulation. We're also responsible for sending ballots to voters who qualify to receive a ballot internationally through the Uniformed Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, otherwise known as UOCAVA. Some voters receive paper ballots and others opt to receive and or return their ballots electronically. And that's a federal act. We conduct early voting sites, which provide constituents with the opportunity to vote as early as 27 days prior to an election. And we'll be presenting more information about early voting opportunities and locations at the May 17th Board of Supervisors meeting, so be prepared for that. And although the City of Tucson conducts their own all-mail election, our office securely supplies them with our voter data and verifies signatures on the ballot affidavits that they receive back. A huge challenge that we're experiencing currently is the public's growing distrust of the elections process, particularly the baseless allegations of voter fraud from sitting elected officials in local, state, and national seats. It has thrust our office into the public spotlight, and we are utilizing precious time and resources responding to concerned constituents and the media rather than providing proactive voter education. It's not just us, that is across the nation. Our successes on the voter side include the building of relationships with the City of Tucson, Pima County Elections Department, the Pasquayaqui Tribe, the Tohono O'odham Nation, and the Tucson Post Office. We have now and are currently serving as a ballot drop-off location for the City of Tucson, which we did in the last election and are currently doing literally right now. Previously, we would direct voters to drop off their ballots at City Hall, resulting in frustrated voters rather than being able to take their ballot that they brought in. We also successfully worked with Pima County Elections Department to transition from paper poll books to electronic poll books, which we have spent a lot of time talking about this cycle, and which they're implementing in the 2022 primary and general elections. We're very excited for that collaboration. We will be reopening the Pasquayaqui early voting site in the 2022 primary and general elections and have worked to expand our outreach in rural and tribal areas. And our budget reflects the need of a congressional election year where we'll be bringing on over 100 intermittent staff members to assist us with the election, many of them returning from multiple previous elections. Our goals for the next fiscal year: 1, to implement new recording application software. 2, to successfully conduct safe, secure, and accurate early voting for the 2022 primary and general elections. 3, to create a more sustainable work environment for our staff, including adequate pay, professional development, and clear pathways for career advancement. And 4, to expand our outreach to Pima County constituents to better understand the service available to them. So I will stop there, and if you have additional questions, feel free.
Any additional questions, Board?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Casares-Kelly, for your presentation and all of your hard work. Just wanted to ask 2 questions. First of all, under the voter registration program budget, I see where we're going, where the recommended budget has about 8 additional FTE planned. Is that because we're coming into a congressional and statewide election, or do you see ongoing plans for those new positions?
So the office overall has been operating lean for a number of years. And so we have increased those FTEs to reflect the everyday needs. As I said, we continuously maintain those voter records. We are continuously working towards the next election, even if it is not out in the public. That's what we're doing. So those are permanent positions. We do have separate line items for FTEs specifically for intermittent staff, but the permanent positions are permanent.
Thank you. Thank you. And then just wanted to touch on the next to last sentence in your significant changes section. It says, working with the cybersecurity and network security partners at the federal, state, and county levels to further enhance our security infrastructure. If you could, as you're able, because I'm sure some of this might be not always publicly discussed, but anything you could share with the board about your work in that area.
Absolutely, thank you. Yes, so we have been working very diligently with the Secretary of State's office. We have been a part of the MS Isaac group. We have been, we had an audit done by Homeland Security to make sure that when I took office, we wanted to assess what we had, where any vulnerabilities might lie. We have been beefing up all of our IT needs, with some with collaboration through ITD, but with our own internal IT department as well. And we have been really on high alert because of the growing rhetoric throughout the country and growing threats that we're all mindful for. We want to make sure that we're absolutely prepared. We feel like we're in good shape. Everything that we have taken a look at indicates that we are prepared. One of the other things that we are doing is implementing a lot of training. We're ensuring that we're following advice for best practices and all of those things as we get into another election cycle.
What is the MS Isaac group that you referred to?
Of course, I had to use an acronym. They are the statewide? Federal, thank you. I knew I had somebody in the back. The federal group that is overseeing elections integrity throughout the nation. So that is in conjunction with the FBI, Homeland Security, with even local police. So if there's anything happening that is threatening our elections, we can reach out to our partners there, explain the situation. They will let us know whether or not it's a credible threat and whether we need to advance it or not. This can be anything from someone scribbling messages onto a ballot affidavit and mailing it back to us, to somebody making phone calls or threats or showing up in person. And so there are special categorizations for any of these types of threat that they recognize as much more urgent and need to respond to quickly. And so these are the experts in the field that have we build relationships with them throughout the years, and are making sure that we are in compliance and, again, following best practices. Most recently, I was able to participate in a statewide tabletop exercise through the Secretary of State's office, where we had members of the MS Isaac group there, folks to let us know if we were doing a simulation, if this were to happen in an election. Here are a variety of outcomes or actions that could be taken to mitigate whatever threat there is.
Chair Bronson? Yeah, what initiatives or efforts could the county help to make the recorder staff feel more safe and their work valued? Because I know that it's difficult, and you have it makes sense, you have a higher vacancy rate than some of the other departments, I'm sure, because of a lot of those added stresses.
Thank you, Supervisor Grijalva, Board Chair Bronson. Chair Bronson. We would absolutely appreciate any positivity sent our way, and any type of appreciation. Of course, we have been working very hard to secure additional compensation for our staff, and we're very appreciative of the county's efforts to provide for parental leave and additional things that make it a better work environment. One of the biggest things right now has to do with pay, because it is such an intricate set of responsibilities that our staff is demanded. And we need to make sure that we are adequately compensating them, even just across the board, not even outside of the county, but here within Pima County. We need to ensure pay equity for folks that are doing much higher job responsibilities than they are listed as. So that is one. The other thing is the barrage of abuse that my staff takes. That is in the form of phone calls, in the form of angry emails, in the form of angry messages written on ballot affidavits. That is a really big one. And they are bracing for it. That is very concerning to hear public officials talk about the integrity and security and efficacy of our office, to share their confidence that we are adequately providing the services to Pima County is so important, and my staff needs to hear that. Across the country, we are seeing a mass exodus of election workers leaving elections, and we have seen that here in Pima County. I had a number of individuals retire, and as they're leaving, they're saying, I'm exhausted. This is too much. I don't want to hear any of the negativity. So whatever way that you can share that, if that be by declaration, through personal messages, through visiting our office to say hello to our staff, whatever it is, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any further questions? Thank you. So let's move on to Superintendent.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Madam Administrator, thank you very much for some time. I know we're getting close to the lunch hour, so I'll try to go as quickly as possible, but I want to start off by thanking all of the amazing educators that are currently bracing at the door because the kids at this hour go a little wild. It is May, and we are almost there. I know Francisco Garcia is excited that we can get the kids home. So really kudos to the teachers, the staff, our entire educational community. This has been a wild year coming out of this pandemic, and getting our kids back in the classroom has been nothing more than joyful to see their smiles and their faces and everybody getting back to the normal. Pima County School Superintendent's Office is very unique because we really cross over to so many different offices. We really touch every one of our elected partners here, and I can't thank them enough for the collaboration. I can't thank the board here enough for your collaboration and administration. We feel very supported in Pima County. We are very happy at the Pima County School Superintendent's Office. We are doing a fantastic job. The staff works tirelessly. And let me kind of just go into a little bit about what we do. We really have three major pillars that we kind of delve into every day, and it never stops. It's literally 7 days a week. First is our kind of finance and administration. We're charged with all the money that comes through, whether it's tax dollars from homeowners, federal monies, bonds, overrides, all of that money will come through our office and be distributed to schools. It's approximately $1.5 billion that comes through our office every year, and our finance team watches those numbers and is really incredible in making sure that that gets processed with the schools and collaborates specifically with the district schools for the budget purposes. With that, our office is also charged with running all of the elections for governing board members and for all of the bonds and overrides. That task is daunting. It is really finite attention to detail. So as we go into our challenges, it's basically making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. And so you're going to have probably about 4 to 5 districts come up this year very shortly within the next coming months. They're going to go out for bonds and overrides. And then you're going to have about 55, maybe 60, that number is increasing, of new candidates for governing board members. These are the authorities of schools. And so it's really important for our constituents to know they call our office often for multiple reasons. Kind of like the recorder just said, we also are in the fever of the political realm. So the authority of schools really lies with the elected governing board members of school districts and that superintendent. And so for our job is to make sure that any constituent that does want their voice heard, and if they do want to get active, they definitely need to come to the Pima County School Superintendent's Office, file the paperwork, and they can become an elected governing board member themselves. Our office is also charged with certifying teachers that want to have a certificate, or for a district must have a certificate to teach. We have about 4,000 of those a year. We also are charged if your son or daughter does not want to go to a district, charter, or private school, they are mandated between the ages of 6 and 16, you need to be in something. You have to be in school. So we also do the homeschool population. Typically, it used to be somewhere around 300 to 500. We now are approaching that 1,800 of enrollment per year of homeschool students. And they come simply to our office. They fill out a affidavit of homeschool, and we will take care of them and make sure that they have any resources that they need. But that parent becomes the sole teacher at that purpose. That's really the administration piece that goes on day in and day out. I find it, I love talking to our payroll specialists in our finance department. This is just payroll for the schools. Every week she's charged with about a $30 million responsibility to make sure that all the payroll goes to the teachers and the staff across Pima County. You've got about 150,000 kids, and you've got about 30,000 total educator staff in there. So it's really neat to watch us do the payroll for the district schools. Let me talk about another pillar that we're very, very excited about, and we're seeing some tremendous impacts, which is we're a professional development provider. We have an educational service agency. So Supervisor Christie, as you mentioned, the business arena, this is where our office gets to come into the business arena, and we get to provide services for schools. So they might call us and say, Superintendent, we want to really take our teachers or our assistant principals to that next level, and we want them to become phenomenal principals. So we'll partner up with A+ schools, different districts, and we'll put them into a program called Lead Now, which my chief deputy and my program director are here actually. And we'll enroll them in those programs, and they will work on year-long programs to just work on positive strategies that are going to help that school succeed. And so we have flagship programs that we have built through the demand that we've asked through the different schools what they're looking for. And our flagship programs include Lead Now, which is a purely leadership program, very successful, impacting many, many people. We have a brand new program that we launched, which is called Advance. This is all designed on how you make special education needs in schools robust, up to date, and very, very powerful. This is something that's really new. It's also really neat because of the community for families that have special needs needs a lot of attention. They have every right to have the best education. We want to make sure that those industries have help doing it. What's neat about our professional development area, or the ESA side of the house, is we get to now go into the district, the charters, the private, and the homeschool community. With the finance part, it's really guided just towards the district schools. We don't do the finances for charter schools or private schools. We have a business education partnership program, which works directly with our businesses, and we collaborate with internships and bring kids from schools right into businesses to give them a shot. We see thousands of kids come into that program, gives them an opportunity to see what a skill might be like or a particular field in business. Really, really fun to watch a student come in, go sit through a simulator, and actually get excited about aviation. It opens their eyes. We like to really, really look at that middle school level and early high school level to get them excited, and then actually parlay that and try to get them involved into our one of our district schools called JTED, which is a phenomenal program that gets kids interested in business. We have another program which is called Healthy and Safe School, all designed around every aspect that you can think of that has anything to do with healthy and safe. So right now, the pillars of that are social and emotional learning. We know through the pandemic there's a big gap. We were all at home, and getting these kids back has been a challenge. And we look forward to continuing that challenge and just working with schools to find out what are the best strategies to make sure that they are mentally in the right capacity. With education, you have two parts. You have the classroom management, and then you have the concept. To get to the concept, those kids have to be thinking right. They have to be feeling supported. And that's where Healthy and Safe Schools really comes in and does a great job. We have another program which is called Gifted Ed. These are students that are simply designated as a gifted student. With that, we have parlayed that into a new program that we've just launched called Community Share, Pima Community Share, which is really going to be all of our program in this entire county. This is where we infuse anyone in business, industry, or organization that wants to get connected with education, and you fuse them together. We are really, really excited. This has just gotten launched. We'll be able to see, the impacts we already know from the amount of people that have signed up and are in this. But any business or organization that wants to get involved with schools would simply go to Pima Community Share, tell us your expertise, and a teacher can go on there and say, I'm looking for a business scholar to talk to an entrepreneur class. Or I was just at a music class and they had a harpsist in there, and it was really neat to see those two industries connect. So we're going to have a big invite and kind of a kickoff party. We're going to invite everyone here. I think it's in September or August, and if you could make it to that, it would be really, really special. Everything that we do is at schools.pima.gov. Anything that you need for anything with schools, we want to be a part of that. Our mission is leadership, service, and collaboration. And we walk around all day long thinking about what is in the best interest of our students. So if you have an idea or you have a constituent, please send them our way, and we will facilitate a conversation to find out what we might be able to do or connect a dot. And we can see that's where our office's strength has really come. I want to talk about the last pillar of what we do. I mentioned we don't have the authority of schools. We do have one school that is ours and is absolutely yours as well. So when we spoke about justice and we saw Laura Conover come up and the sheriff, we have a school that is our school. It's all of ours. We have full authority. It's called the Pima County Accommodation School District. This is the school that's located in the Juvenile Detention Center and the jail. You typically are going to have about 80 students in there at all times, 40 at one, 40 at the other. It's a little less now. And we'll see anywhere between 200 to 300, maybe 400 students per year. So when we talk about students falling through the cracks, or we talk about recidivism, this is the area that we really focus on and is our biggest challenge probably at the office. Is how do you support these students, and then how do you support those families of those students? It is a very, very challenging demographic to work with. It is a highlight when you hit the home runs, but when they leave your facility and you see them come back, and that's the hard part. So that's some areas that we will be looking at going forward. We are in the middle of piloting a program called Pima Cycle Breaker, which is to break this cycle of recidivism. We are partnering with probation right now, and Judge Quigley and Hockley in the courts to see what we can do about bringing ages 15 to 24, 25, that range. And we put them in three pillars. We put them in either in education, we put them in wraparound services, which could be trauma-informed care, counseling, mentorship, or internship. And then last, we put them in a job. And we're working with unions and business partners all across the county, collecting partners. And we feel if we can come at this as an entire county working together, we can really make a major impact and do something super inventive. Again, I can't thank you enough for everything that you have done for our office. I am really, really pleased with the partnership with Pima County Administration. Kudos to the Pima County Health Department. They have stepped up enormously throughout this entire pandemic, and going forward, they are here from us. We are seeing the numbers creep up just a little bit, so summer couldn't be coming at a better place. On the forefront, the educators are working extremely hard, doing the best job they possibly can. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Supervisor.
Superintendent Williams, thank you very much for your presentation and your dedicated service. I just was curious, in last year's adopted budget, we had $1.4 million for other professional services. That's going to go down to just $200,000 in the recommended budget for this coming year. Was that related to COVID expenses or something else that just happened during the last budget year?
In the finance area of that, I believe that number was actually the budget of the accommodation district, and where we had that in the line item, that has been moved over. So that number is still actually in the actual budget, but it's just in a different area that made it more transparent and accountable.
So it was in other professional services, and now it's in a separate line?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, let's move on to the treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last but not least, for the morning, it's afternoon now.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and Supervisors. Chris Ackerley on behalf of the Treasurer's Office, Chief Deputy. Treasurer Ford sends her regards and her regrets that she can't be here in person. However, as many of the other elected officials and department heads have alluded to, staffing is an issue. And we currently only have about half the accounting staff that we normally have in the office today, and so she has stayed behind in order to make sure that the bills get paid, which is primarily our function. Our function is to collect the tax money, invest it in the interim, and when it needs to be distributed to jurisdictions and or used to pay the bills, make those transactions happen. In addition to that, there are a few statutory functions that we have to take care of, and other things like handling the proceeds for foreclosure sales and various other items. But other than that, it's pretty much confined to the functions that are defined in statute. And hence, as you look at the pie charts, the budget, we don't generate revenues on our own. It is primarily, there's a few fees in there, but it's primarily funded by the general fund. Challenges for the coming years, obviously staffing, and to nobody's surprise, IT. And those are the two issues that are listed. To that end, one of the initiatives that the office is undertaking this year, in addition to anything that you guys might do as far as wages across the county, but is to realign our organizational charts to provide more of a career path in an effort to retain some of those qualified employees so that they have an actual career path. And move ahead. And the second is IT. Some of our IT systems are dated, reaching their end of life, and are, if not addressed, are going to have some experience dealing with other systems. This is not a full-scale replacement. It's basically just duct tape and chewing gum to patch us to, at some point in the future, we will have to come to you and ask for a full system replacement, but that's a few years down the road. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the treasurer?
Madam Chair, I just want to relay quickly an anecdote. I had a constituent that wanted to know where the money that was brought into the treasurer's office was invested, and I called the treasurer, and within minutes, I got a complete detailed analysis of every account, every bank, every brokerage firm, that the money was invested right down to the last cent. So I feel very safe knowing that our money's well taken care of and watched on. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I will relay that compliments to the treasurer.
Thank you, Supervisor Christie.
Also, she's the only other Republican that
I wondered when that was coming. Okay. Any further questions? All right. Thank you very very much for being brief, given the time of day.
To stand the precarious nature of standing between the committee and lunch.
Yes. Thank you. And that concludes our presenters. We now call to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address us at this time? If not, then, oh, there is somebody. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes. Abide by the rules of civility. And we need your name. We need you. Did you fill out a green card?
No, I did not.
If you would, when you finish.
Cool.
Before you leave, you don't have to do it now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, hello. My name is Nicholas. I'm just like a local community advocate. Thanks for, hearing me out. I just wanted to kind of respond to Sheriff Nanos's request to increased funding. As a member of the community here, I think a lot of the things that our community has like in the last couple of years, a lot of people have, and myself included, have become concerned with over-policing in our communities and how like the disproportionate rates of incarceration among lower income communities and the effects that has in perpetuating cycles of poverty. And so I really want to encourage you guys to take that into account and to not continue to give funding to these harmful institutions such as the Sheriff's Department in TPD. You guys don't have control over that, obviously, but yeah, I mean, we continue to see a lack of accountability from the police across the board. Even just a few, what was it, last year? Officer Ryan Remington murdered Richard Lee Richards, and he's still to this day, Laura Conover has still not pressed charges, and it's been over 162 days for a cop that murdered a man in a wheelchair with his back turned. And so I just wanted to again to emphasize that I don't know how the sheriff can come up and ask for more money when things like that are continuing to happen. And I could go on, but I won't. So anyway, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And again, don't forget to fill out your green card. All right, if there are no further speakers, then we'll adjourn this session and reconvene the next session at 2 o'clock.